Hey guys, we're Violet and Antonio.
And welcome to the Pooks and Mooks show, where we are about couples. We're still figuring it out, to be honest. But
couples and traveling. Interviewing others who have same mindset, similar mindset.
Pretty much that free soul type of mindset too.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
How you doing, my man?
Very good. Thank you very much,
guys.
Antonio.
Yeah.
All right, man. So, how did we meet? How did this happen?
Well, we actually crossed paths at the gym. We're both in Canggu in Bali.
Uh-huh.
And I met these two just working out. Somehow a conversation popped up, and then I got talking with Antonio.
But as you guys noticed, he does have an accent, so where are you from?
I'm actually from New Zealand,
Yeah.
believe it or not. But
Yeah.
you might not pick up on total my accent because I've traveled the world so often
Oh,
now.
that's
So
funny.
it sort of blends into one, but it's actually traditionally from New Zealand, if you
That's
can pick that
awesome.
up.
Which is cool. That's where they filmed Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
Right?
did they?
Exactly.
Oh, I
yes.
didn't know that.
Middle Earth, right in New Zealand.
Which is
Cool.
awesome.
Did you ever
What?
run into them filming?
No, I didn't.
Lord of the
They're on a
Rings,
different island. So New Zealand's
Oh.
basically got two main islands.
Okay.
And so I live
Cool.
in the south. But yeah, the filming was done up in the north. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's the
listen.
only thing I know about New Zealand right
Yeah,
now.
honestly, sadly. Sorry, we should have looked it up, honestly.
Hey, it's all
Before,
right.
yeah.
But if you want, give us your highlights, man.
Mhm.
Tell us what you consider long version your story.
Mhm.
The long version of my story. Well, basically, my story has all come out of growing up. I moved. My family moved around a lot. So there are 5 key moments, 5 key periods of my life.
Mhm.
So with that comes a double-edged sword. Taught me how to adapt really fast, but
Mhm.
also didn't really allow me to form really close relationships
Mhm.
early on because I had to, be so used to picking up and moving
Right.
on really
Mhm.
fast. So that was a big thing.
Was that 0 through 18?
Pretty much the key moment was between 8 and 13.
Okay.
We moved 5 times as a family
Oh.
between those ages, which was key. So I learned some big things got installed in the subconscious, which later I can get to perhaps later in the story of how to unpack that, what that meant subconsciously in my life and how to redirect my decisions in my life. But that
Mhm.
was a big influence in my life growing up. Definitely was around those years.
5 major moves or like down the street?
Well,
or different city?
Well, one was in from within the city, but as an 8-year-old kid, you just can't get to your other neighborhood like that, right?
Mhm, yeah.
So it was pretty much was like another city in a sense, new school,
Mhm.
uprooted, and the other ones were different cities, and one back to the same city
Mhm.
as well.
What country?
All within New Zealand,
Okay.
but they were just from major city locations,
Oh, okay.
and different environments. Having to go into a different social setting, a new school, make new friends, get used to a whole different environment. Had to get really used to doing that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which is very important, especially since we're now talking about traveling.
Yeah.
So, did you stay there till 18? What's next in the
Yeah,
story?
right. So the next up, we basically end up settling in Christchurch, probably an established move around the age of 13, 14.
Mhm.
Established myself in Christchurch, and then really developed, a core set of friends around that area, and then a lifestyle. Did my schooling there, graduated high school, and then I pretty much from there went straight into a youth working course. So I got trained as a youth worker. And you'll get to later how the business was formed was pretty much out of the essence of having a real desire to see people grow and flourish.
Oh,
Post
Within the religion, the youth development?
specifically within youth development,
Oh, cool.
and then post that I did a personal training course. So I became trained as a personal trainer, and a whole bunch of disciplines within that. And then after that, and I really did a lot of different jobs, which will be unpacked.
Same here. I
It's
did
like you're telling his
like
story.
30-something different jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was grateful for all of them, like from laying concrete to laying pipe work to being
Oh, wow.
electrical work, running my business with laying electrical cables and refitting houses, to building work, to courier driving, to taxi driving. I mean, you name it. I got the experience of it, and I'm really grateful for it.
Would you say it's because you lose interest quickly and your mind needs to get stimulated differently?
I think one of the core things for me is I didn't want to leave any stone unturned, and part of it was a conversation with my mum, 18, and she said, if you could have a year out, you could do anything, you could work any job that you want, what would you do, and why not have a taste of everything so that you know what you really
I
want to
agree
do.
with that.
Yeah.
Because how do you know you could be really interested in being a mechanic, but you never had the chance?
Right.
So
And kids these days, they think they have to have that figured out. What am I going to do for the next 40 years?
Exactly.
And that's so unrealistic.
Exactly. And the other side of it ties in for me as part of my role as a life coach is a career coach as well. And it's helping direct people into their chosen field, which I've developed what I think is the best of everything I've learned into one system to help people do that. And part of that was having the experience of all these different kind of genres and pathways into work and being able to relate to people at that level as well.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So you were trying different jobs, and then did you find one that was it, or what happened next?
Well, I discovered through that process I could actually love a lot of things. You know,
Yeah.
I could love building,
right.
I
That's
could love
okay.
being physical, I loved personal training, but I started to develop themes. I noticed there were themes that came to the surface.
Right, I agree.
And I had to start, really journaling. What was it that was making me warmer? What was making me colder? What was making me excited?
Wow, that's a
what
good
was
way to
moving
do
me
it.
Wow, I
away?
didn't think of it that
So it
way.
was a great self-reflective question to ask and really helped me on the path to finding my mission and cause, really.
Okay.
So how did you build the self-image to do what you wanted to do? Because I mean that's really challenging too, and not listening
Right.
to other people's opinions
Yeah.
of what they want for
Yeah.
you.
Because in America, we're all
Yeah.
taught to just grades in high school.
Sure.
You have to place. She was top 10. I was not even close. Top 10% of the
Good,
grades.
I just worked hard.
100%.
Yeah.
So you can get in a university and then get a corporate job.
That, quite frankly, I think is one of probably the fundamental keys. The type of thinking is to produce the type of results. So my thinking was always to be outside of the box. And there's a part of me that wanted to stay within the tried and true. And there was one time where I had a mortgage to pay. I was in a job that I loved 80%. And later on, I can teach you guys the nexus, which basically incorporates your passion, your skills, your talents, your giftings, and your personality all into one direction, and you find out the key sweet spot. But I had to find that I was only at 80% of my nexus, which was actually quite high. Nexus is just what I described. A nexus means the joining point, and basically it's the joining point of all those things that come together. And how excited when you hit the sweet spot, that's when you're nexus. And I found that I was in a job that I was 80% doing what I loved, and I had to make a decision at that point. Do I want to take the risk and go into my own business and fully go into the delicious category, which is 100 plus of what you love to do? Or would I be willing just to potentially stay 80 and then maybe even drift down to 60 and just live a ho-hum existence, paying the bills and being okay with my life? And I really had to make the decision at that point. It's like, you know what? I'm going to take the risk, I'm going to gamble it, and I'm going to really go. So how did I...
That makes so much sense, man.
Yeah.
Because that's what people do all the time. People are like, I like it enough, or do I do the risky thing that is 100% what I want to do?
Yeah.
Exactly. And quite frankly, they're the hardest clients to work with, are those in the category between 40 to 60%, because it's okay enough to stay in there,
Pretty much
but
the middle.
it's not bad enough to change. So the majority of people stay within that zone.
Right.
They don't want to change it because better the devil you know,
not bad
the devil you
enough.
don't. Exactly.
It doesn't
Pray
make
the
sense.
economy crashes so that way you can change something. That's what happens, right?
To open up
Exactly.
your mind.
And that, quite frankly, was a massive thing for me to fight against, because I come from quite a conservative country. Sorry to the NZ followers, but it's true. You know, the key thing is a very conservative culture in a lot of ways, and so I had to fight that. And I was the youngest out of three older brothers, right? So I had to learn to think outside the box. I had to learn to do the best I could with the minimum I had. When you're fighting three older brothers, you have to be crafty.
I have brothers
you have
too,
to
man.
be smarter, right?
Yeah.
You can't always think as the big guy. So, but I see that as a blessing, because I couldn't just use my God-given size or whatever I had as the young kid, because it wouldn't work, right? So I had to come up with other strategies that were outside the box, and perhaps that actually guided and directed my thinking to become an outside of the box thinker as well.
Which is
and
amazing.
try these different things.
Yeah, right.
Wow, so this is so you had that at a young age then? You were thinking that differently at a young age?
Well, I believe so, because, I mean, this was just a classic example. Whenever they would show patterns of numbers that you had to read out in class, right? Everyone see like a 6, and I'd somehow see an 8. Everyone see one color, I would see another color. But that's just a physical thing, which has to do with color blindness.
You're
Oh yeah,
colorblind?
I'm colorblind too.
Yeah,
so I know
Oh
what
my
you mean.
god, I swear to God,
I
it's
understand.
like,
I understand.
I feel like y'all are like the same person right now.
Following the same buzz,
Yeah.
So I literally
You
had
color
to-
the ocean purple instead of blue. That's what I did.
Oh,
Yeah,
I love hearing that.
yeah, stuff like that, man.
The crayons look the same.
Yeah. So, but I always come back to this quote. Well, there's two quotes that I love, and one is from Theo Sager, and the other is from Albert Einstein, and he says, You know, imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited, but imagination encircles the world.
Yeah.
And I always harken back to that because that quote for me is kind of like I could stay within the confines of society and do what most of the people do and get what most of the results are given in life, right?
Yeah.
Which is the same thing, the same wage, most people in debt, most people slightly broke, most people living week to week. And I could live with that type thing and get that results, or I could decide to change everything. I know people, friends, and I won't say it out, but they make much more money than me per se, but they're still living on their credit, still in debt on their credit card every year, right? Because they haven't learned to think outside the box. They still live within society's framework for their life. And so that was one of my gifts, was to take that quote, that type of quote, and then just apply it to life. And if I access imagination, then anything becomes possible.
Wow. So what was a job that you felt 80% and then you...
That shift.
Yeah, that shift.
Yeah,
that
right.
time,
So for 12 years I was working as a youth worker / youth pastor in a school and a youth community.
Is that where you developed your communication?
Yeah, probably part of it, yeah. I mean, I always like to talk, you know, in front of crowds, and that was never a hard thing for me. But you know, I had a change in management, and I really feel they didn't really appreciate perhaps my the core strengths and my gifts. So I found that with, you know, a new leader being involved that I was under, it was really starting to wear on me a bit. And then I thought, well, I can either try and force myself into this mold just out of fear that I might not be able to pay my bills, or I can really decide that, you know what, I've got a lot to offer. I can completely change my whole environment if I choose. I've just got to have a plan, a strategy, and the desire to do it. And so that's kind of how I came up with it.
What was the plan and strategy? Would you shift towards?
Well, there was a number of things. So the key essence of my business is based on 3 words: create, educate, inspire. And so the idea is create an environment for people to excel holistically, that's mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. Educate people with life transformative principles, and inspire people to find and follow their purpose. Right? That really was the foundation of my business, and not just my business, but my life's work. And so, you know, I have a part of the business to certain people that can't afford the service it offers. So I have, you know, foundation fund, which is able to go and help people that perhaps are struggling, that need it, but that could make a massive difference to their life. So anyway, so that was the first thing. But so I had my why. So but then I needed a plan, because it wasn't just like you could just turn up there and start earning millions of dollars and you're set free. So the first thing I had to figure out is, you know what, I need to learn how to live for free. So I was staying in a 3-bedroom house. I owned that. I had a mortgage to pay, and then I figured, you know what, I need to be able to live for free to take the pressure off just caring for myself and start caring for the business. And so what I literally did was I had some handy friends that were willing to help me. Help came from as soon as I made the decision, help came from all over the place. Like it was kind of like
it happened for you.
Majestic,
like,
It's not a common thought. What do you mean by I need to figure out how to live for free?
Yeah, so I had to figure out how I didn't have to concern myself with just working to pay for my own needs to survive. So that, because I wanted to focus on something that was greater than myself. So it was like, I don't have time to think about myself. I got more time. I want to focus on the business, right, and focus on making a difference and contributing. So what I literally did was I turned half of my garage into a sleep out. So I got pretty much free accommodation. So I had a guy came in and showed me how to plaster. They showed me how to line it with electricity. I had a really good friend help me pretty much put a window in, put a skylight in, and then I was staying in this place. And I literally had free, so all the mortgage was getting paid off. I had a free room to stay. I went on a world tour. I came back and I thought, you know what, I could do the same in the front. Right? So I literally, with all the skills that I'd learned, I transformed the second one pretty much up by myself at the front sleeper. So now I had 5-bedroom house. I was able to rent out each room, room by room, put a manager in place, and then I could travel the world for the last 10 years, 6 months of the year, right around the world.
Oh my God,
being able to live for free, not only live for free, but make money enough to travel, spend and give as I go.
Amazing.
You know?
And I know that they're watering the plants up there, so we'll probably need to come in a little closer.
Yeah.
Because I can edit the background noise.
Okay, cool.
But it needs to pick up very clearly.
More, yeah.
So essentially, are you using a combination of Airbnb and all the other local websites? Because that's really trending right now. Is Airbnb?
Sure.
Like instead of buying a rental property, one renter.
Yeah.
Buy a house and now you have 6 rooms to rent or something.
Yeah.
And you're much more income.
Like I did try Airbnb, it works when I'm there, but particularly for me, I want to create the smoothest systems, the least amount of maintenance possible for when I travel. So I've been refining it over years. Every time I go back, I'm making some kind of investment in the house to make it nicer, better. And so now I've just got all long-term tenants, a manager in place, which means that the bills get paid every week. Everything's on automatic payment, so it never misses a payment. I've got really great tenants in there. They love being
That's
there.
a blessing.
The systems are set up, and so the place grosses, like $1,000 a week, and then the bills are only $300 a week. So you get to gross $700, which is quite nice when you're traveling to places like
absolutely.
Thailand.
We
Sounds like we need to get a house and Airbnb it.
Well,
right?
the thing is, it's not about the strategy. It's about the purpose and the cause. You see, I would have found another way had this not worked.
That's true.
Like this. But what I did was I just pieced together whatever plan. So you take the house away from me, I'm going to find a way to do what I'm going to do.
Right.
I agree.
Like that's the standard you live at.
But once I actually figured it out, it was within 3 months. Once I did the subconscious reprioritization, which is another course that I've gone through, and I help other people, which is to really find out what's holding you back. Your top 10 moving toward values, your top 10 pulling away, and your top 2 that are most influencing you. Once I figured that out, I could rewrite the rules. Literally overnight, within 3 months, I was financially independent. So it took 3 months to put the plan together. And once I had it, it was so clear in my mind, I had my goals, and I was able to take them step by step to the point I never had to work again after that day.
Wow.
I'm not saying I didn't work again, but I said I never had to for another dollar.
that's a
If I
great
didn't
place
want to,
to
I
be.
could set up
Yeah.
and I could do whatever I wanted.
Of the rat race.
Yeah.
But I agree with what you were saying. Like, if your why is big enough, then the how doesn't matter.
Exactly right.
And so what we're looking for, though, is like, was there any powerful mentor or, like you said, a course or a program or something that was a big catalyst? Because it seems like, obviously, you were thinking outside the box for a while.
Yeah.
Did you take any quantum leaps or exponential?
Yeah, no, great. I mean, there's been a number of influences if I look at so just geniuses
Starting with the first
of
one.
the mind. Probably first one. When I was a kid, this really helped me. Mum introduced me to a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Right?
Oh my god,
Yeah,
one of our
yeah,
favorite
yeah.
books.
So and so I literally came across that when I was 12 years old. My mum started me on it.
12 years old?
Yeah, my mum started me on that book, reading the adult version at 12 years old. And I think that had a powerful impact because out of everything I was learning at school, I realized, the standard curriculum I couldn't give to, you might have to edit this, but I didn't really care about, right? But when I got a hold of this book, it was so practical. I could understand the concept of the circle of control.
Yeah.
I could then go from being a kid who might have got hung up on not being picked for that team or getting bullied by people, by your brothers or whatever, to little things like that, to suddenly going, what is inside my control now? My happiness is literally within this world here.
Yeah.
So and this has influenced the rest of my life, and it taught me how to manage my finances. It taught me how to then become financially independent. It taught me, the circle of influence. How you can start influencing people without, all of these great little personal tools. And so I've designed the whole curriculum on the key principles out of that as well now that I offer out into the world. But that would have probably been the catalyst to start me thinking, probably for self-awareness more than anything, to go, I see probably people that might have been more talented than me, might have had more education, they might have, been more gifted in certain areas. But one thing I didn't see them always have was this ability to stand on their own 2 feet, look outside the box from the younger age, and then perceive the world differently and therefore make different decisions. It's not always about being the best, it's about having a different mindset, because you can get totally radical results if you can change your mindset. You don't have to be the best,
Yeah.
Like alarms are going off or something. But apologize. I guess this is the flexibility with just kind of being nomadic, right?
Yeah.
Have a set
This is
office.
authentic, guys.
I know, right?
This
As you can
Yeah, you think travel is what you see on Instagram and all that, but sometimes,
There's so much to
gotta see
it.
Yeah, no, exactly.
That's amazing, man. You're honestly overwhelming me with how much.
Alright.
It's like, well, where
It's
do I
like knowledge of
pinpoint
abundance.
next?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so 12 years old, you
Yeah.
found this incredible book that I didn't find my first pivotal book till I was like 17 or 18 years
Right.
old.
I was 13 but I read the teen version. Yeah, I just wanted to improve myself. I don't even know where it came from. I just felt like at a young age, like I loved personal development. I was really, really hyper, and I was always different.
Yeah.
So I was the most behaved out of my sisters. So in a sense of like hyperactiveness for a female.
Yeah.
And so I thought like, what's wrong with me? And then my dad was like, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just active. And so my outlet was personally developing myself because I was so different from everybody else in a good way.
Sure.
Yeah, Violet's the blessing of having no daddy issues.
Wow.
I really don't. Yeah, honestly.
The dream.
Yeah,
The dream. I got it. I told you.
Yeah.
That's the best
I
way
had
to
a
put
great
it.
dad. Like he told me I was brave, I was
lucky.
smart. Yeah, like thanks to my dad because I'm everything because of him.
Perfect.
And I think, and we talk about it, like we believe couples are gonna change the world because like, it starts in the house, right? Like your mom gave you that book. Like I don't know where she got it, but maybe she's read it before and
we
she
actually
gave
have
it
to
to
find
you.
out where.
Yeah, but I believe that as you do things that you love and you personally develop yourself, you're gonna affect the next generation. And I love that you work with kids because they're so impressionable, and you can, if you're there early enough, you can really help them. Just acknowledge themselves, self-reflection, like acceptance, and
100%.
Which is where I think, in general, the world is going towards because of the internet. It's different now. People are waking up, and it's obviously still not mainstream yet. It's not mainstream yet, but I feel like you get yourself right.
Yeah.
You find you attract someone else that did the same thing, and then you can impact the world together.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But so, how did your mom find that book, and then what was next?
Yeah, right. So, to be honest, I don't think I've asked her that question. I don't know how she came across it, but I'm
You
grateful.
need to ask her the most important thing you ever did for
I
me.
know.
I really should. But that was awesome. And then moving on, I came across Anthony Robbins.
Yes, we love
saw
Tony
him on an
Robbins.
infomercial, and he just sounded so motivational and inspiring.
You found this infomercial?
Yeah, it
How did
was.
you hear about Tony Robbins first? Because he's obviously the legend.
Yeah.
Honestly, from you.
For me?
From you.
Oh.
You went to his conference. He went.
Oh wow.
And then
okay.
I looked him up and I read his book.
I found him from, we do a network marketing company on the side called Amway. And in Amway, there's a personal development training system.
Right. Yeah.
And my mentor gave me Tony Robbins audios.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he gave me Tony Robbins audios when I was 18.
Yeah. No, he.
So then you found him?
It was brilliant. Like he taught me.
Yeah.
I mean, they did a big thing on the subconscious value system. So I took a lot out of that. And it's just his general attitude. I mean, he hit a lot of gold.
Yeah.
So I pulled out a lot of good stuff from him. Jim Rohn, his mentor.
We love
I
Jim
know.
Rohn,
We
man.
love Jim Rohn.
Probably, I like him more than anybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was fantastic. And then there's a certain guy, but I don't know if you would have heard of this guy, but he's a more New Zealand-based guy, but Dave Riddell. Now
We'll check him out.
He's in his 60s now. He wrote something called Living Wisdom. And if the 7 Habits is kind of like the basis of which holds life and which gives you the structures in which to, sort of architect your life. Well, this is about the energy that flows through it. It's about the mindset, not quite the chakras, but the mindset, the subconscious, the thought patterns, how basically to change your paradigms. And it goes way more into the paradigms of life. And Kobe touches on that, but he goes right into detail on it. Pretty much the forming of your beliefs as a child, even just in the womb, outside the womb in your early years, how trust is betrayed at the cot.
Wow.
And all of these kinds of
Trust is
stuff.
betrayed at the...
Trust is betrayed at the cot.
The baby.
Basically, when a baby's in the cot, that's the time trust gets betrayed.
Oh.
So quite often, people with issues that will come out of childhood often go right back to the early stages when, for whatever reason, their caregiver, their big person in their life, betrayed their trust at a young age. And a lot of the dysfunction subsequently in their lives comes from those early stages and the beliefs that are formed around that, about how people are and who they are.
This is called energy... What did you say?
Well, the whole thing was called Living Wisdom.
Living Wisdom.
But you said that it was the energy...
Yeah, my analogy was like if you're looking at a hydro slide, the scaffolding would be, the slide itself would be the 7 habits, but the stuff going through it is like the living wisdom.
Oh my gosh.
This is the stuff that life's made of. And so it's understanding really the essence of life. And so that had a big influence in understanding the subconscious to a large degree and helping people reprogram their minds and also replace the lies with truth.
Yeah.
Because if people basing their lives on lies, they're going to end up with bad results long term. So it's training people how to think with the right mindset.
Yeah. Have you heard of Les Brown?
Les Brown. I feel like I have.
Maybe on YouTube, but he basically says that people are made up of the stories they tell themselves every day.
Yep.
And that this individual disrupted the story he kept telling about himself, and that's how he was able to move forward. So
100%.
Yeah, right. Like we tell ourselves these stories, like like people who are addicted to like drugs. Oh, I'm a crack addict. But if you can interrupt that and tell them like no, you can be an engineer. So it's things that we consistently tell ourselves.
On that point, it was like, if I had just listened to the conservative voices, which was the 90% tempting thing to do, because you tend to think of them as the voice of reason and the correct voice, they would be saying, you won't be financially independent in your 20s. You won't, you can't live for nothing. You should just find a solid job that's 8 to 5, work that, and you're going to be set. Now, that was a tempting thing to listen to, but something in me just wasn't willing just to settle for that. I knew there was more I could offer, and there was a far greater way. And the science shows it now, and I know in my personal experience this is true, that when your own needs aren't under stress, your brain goes from the limbic system thinking, fight, flight, into the neocortex, which is creative thinking. That's when all the possibilities are. So like, in saying that, the scientific research says that you literally can access your neocortex, which is the outer cerebrum of the brain, the more creative side, and you can access thoughts you would never have if you were caught in the old structural mindset of fight, flight, in your day-to-day 8 to 5 job, working day-to-day, living week to week. You literally don't allow, even though I believe we're all creative geniuses if we allow ourselves, you literally don't allow your brain to have the ability to access that because you're caught in day to day. And I believe that's the bigger, if you want to call it the system that we're caught in.
That's how it is in the
I
States
agree.
too.
They try and keep you, if you believe in conspiracy theory,
how do we
we're not saying it's the government.
I'm gonna ask you a question.
If we go down that track, but it's the idea that they want to keep you in this confined, limited mindset of just fight, flight, being a little bit of debt, going week to week, because then they got you by the thumb. You're in a consumeristic society, and you got to pay week to week.
This may be a 50-hour.
I know.
We've got so many areas to touch on.
That one you can go deep into, like.
Oh, well, that's
so I really feel like we have a good grasp that it will take a long time to really prick your brain, because at first I'm thinking like this can be a simple story of some things. No, I didn't. I was kind of looking for something to get a grasp on you, an anchor to kind of move it even forward more, but kind of like us, there's no one thing. If the person who's self-aware, the person who reads books, the person that attracts teachers has lived 1,000 lifetimes.
Yeah,
absolutely. I like that.
And you can tell so many stories. Yeah. And I know you're giving us the fast version, but I'm like, wow, I have a really good grasp that where you could have a long white beard right in front of us right now, because you are really blowing my mind away of how deep your knowledge goes.
Wow, thanks.
And I feel like we can understand, because I think ours is pretty up there as well. But
and you have a lot of wisdom.
Yeah, a lot of wisdom.
You do. You shouldn't ask that.
Well, before I ask some specific questions about what you said, I want to know if you're a lone ranger on this, or do you feel like you have a close circle of people that think the same way, or maybe who do you learn from?
Yeah, right. Well, I'm always gleaning. I'm just, I'm trying to get the best information I can. I look from totally exotic sources, different sources, mainstream, but I'll get anything that makes sense, and so I'm always constantly learning. In terms of where I get my support from, I got a group of friends, and about 5 or 6 years ago, I decided, wouldn't it be cool if once a year we went away and we had a trip away, and we do this every year now, and we've done it for the last 5, 6 years, 7 years, and we go away and we just spend a weekend away, and then we do 3 things. We go behind, present, and future. So we take a stock take. We go, how was the last year? Are we happy? Where have we moved the ball? How are we now, and what's the next 5 years? And it's really exciting, because we always look at risk, reflect, legacy, which is Tony Campolo shared, which are the 3 greatest things people in their 90s would have done differently if they could live their life again.
Risk.
Okay, they would. All of these 3 things came up, and they all wish they could go back, and they wish they could reflect on their life. They would have reflected periodically throughout their life, right?
Reflect.
And then upon the reflections, they would have taken way more risks in their life. So they realized, man, all life is risk, and if we don't risk, nothing's worth living, right? They would have risk. And the third thing they all wish they'd done more of is left a legacy that would have lived on beyond their life. And you don't understand that until you get into the 80s and 90s and 70s if you haven't done it. But I'm not even there yet, way off. But my idea was, if I could just pick their brains now, then maybe I can live through their lens even now in my life. Fast forward into young age and do that. So that was always the plan. I always asked for the wisdom that I would have when I'm 18, 90 and live that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So where were those people from? Are they like?
Well, it was a study done from the sociologist Tony Campolo.
No, your friends. That
sorry, my friends all from New Zealand, and we go away once a year and we do that, and we have a ball of a time. We go,
And
we
they think
relax,
like you, and
we
they're-
bond. Yeah, so they're all mates. Must have been attracted to them, or they attracted to me, and we just formed a good relationship, and we all set our goals together. We have a blast, and we share our lives together, and we share our meals together. We have some fun. We go to the pools.
So you're not alone when you have these talks with them, and
Yeah, totally. We reflect, we share our lives, and we progress, and we've seen some amazing changes just within that group.
it's
wow.
amazing.
People
Have you
progressing
read
lives.
Think and Grow Rich?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I've read a bit around
Yeah,
that.
kind of like mastermind, like your
Yeah, it's
mastermind
your
group.
mastermind.
Right,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
just people who think
Kind of
alike.
thing, yeah.
And you guys feed off of each other and help
Yeah.
each other grow.
So that's kind of like my core group. But yeah, in terms of what I glean, in terms of wisdom, it's just constantly whatever I can find, and always constantly researching my brain's
Yeah,
hungry.
seek and you'll find.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back then. Now that I kind of know that, I guess that is the simple answer. Is if you're searching, you're going to find whatever you're looking for. You're going to attract the people in your life.
Yeah.
They just come to you if you have that spirit of
I know,
seeking it out.
It's true.
So you were talking about that the system, which is the lies you were fed,
Yes.
go to work,
Yes.
scarcity mindset, consumerism, materialism, a lot of the terrible things keep you in the fight or flight, you said, which I'm totally vibing with. Like, this is so awesome that you worded it this way. And I'm a big history buff, and the reason why we even got to this point is because with farming, you didn't have to worry about hunting and gathering, so you can now philosophize and think and move your life forward. But modern day hunting and gathering is you get in a job, and all you're worried about is just providing. So when you're beyond that, you're accessing the creative parts of your brain, and that's where I truly think you're most happy.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
That is where happiness lies, when you're just creative, and it's not about being in the hamster wheel.
Yeah.
It's kind of literally just being. This is all hippie, spiritualistic type of thoughts, Buddhist type of thoughts, that
Yeah.
you don't need anything to be happy. You just need to be happy.
Well, yeah, 100%. I want to follow on with what you're saying because I think it's brilliant what you're saying. But I thought, I live, the other quote I didn't get to say, but I live by this quote by Theo Sugriff, and he says this, he says, "Do not make your grand decision in the depths of the valley, but rather make it from the glory of the mountaintop." And that always, I don't know what that quote says to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't make decisions on the low tide.
Right.
Take them on high.
But I see so many people in life, and I've made some big decisions in my life. Luckily, they weren't permanent, but
Yeah.
I've seen many people make these big decisions in their life when they're not in the best mental space, when they're
Right.
going through a tough time, and they're only at level 2 out of 10 on the rung, and they go, man, that level 4, and the temptation in life, it'll always offer you this, it'll offer you the shortcut out, and life will always say, hey, guess what? You could be on level 4 if you just accept my hand and you don't have to do anything. But there's a catch with it. You have to stay on level 4 for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Right? But level 10 might be the mountaintop, but you're on level 2, and level 4 looks so damn good because it's twice as good as level 2, you know? And so many people fall for that. Like, let's take relationships, for example, you know?
Yeah.
You might not have developed yourself to the point yet where you can attract the right person in your life, but you just take what someone's offering you at level 4 and you settle for that, and then, game over. Or anything, a job, you decide to take that, you settle it. But my plan was I want to scale to the top of that mountain and then make my big decisions. So here was my mountain. My mountain was this. My number one value I figured out was freedom. And freedom meant for me, once I wrote my rules for it, in the subconscious section of what I was studying, was being able to do what I wanted, when I wanted, where I wanted, with who I wanted. So for instance, if I woke up tomorrow and decide I'm going to Japan, I could book a flight tomorrow and I could be there in a week.
That sounds so cool. I agree.
Right? So the plan was I wanted to get to the point of, for me it was financial independence, to cut it short. I want to look down from that view, and then I had earned the right to make those big decisions. I hadn't earned the right when I wasn't in control of my decisions or my finances. I hadn't earned the right to choose who my partner was going to be. I hadn't earned the right to choose what I was going to do for the rest of my life. But most people get caught in the system, a little bit of debt, and then it's the practical needs of the day, and they never reach the top of the mountain. They stay at level 5 or level 2 or level 7, whatever it is, And that my temptation was to do that, but I thought, no, what, I'm going to scale it, and then I'm going to make my big decisions. And when I did that, it was awesome, because I got to the top of the mountain and I realized, you know what? Let me just enjoy the mountaintop for a while, right?
Can you explain what was the top of the mountain?
So the top of the mountain was being able to do what I wanted, when I wanted, where I wanted, with who I wanted, with not having to work for a living.
Taking care of the hierarchy of needs, taking care of, which usually revolves around money, because once you take care of that, you're at the top of the mountain, because you're not in the rat race anymore.
Exactly. So for me, it was creating a golden goose that would feed me whether I slept or worked or wake up. It would always be providing for me. And that's pretty much what I created at a young age. So then I was able to make big decisions that usually only retired people can make about what's important to their life. But I got to do it way before that time, you know. So being able to do that was inspiring because for a while I took some time off, right? And I really enjoyed, you know, just doing nothing. And that year I fulfilled my bucket list. So I wrote down everything I ever wanted to do before I settled down. So, and this is going to sound...
What do you mean
settle down with a partner, kids in the future. You know, I thought, you know what, I want to take a year out. I want to do everything because I put myself in my brother's shoes, right? My brother had 4 kids, had a wife, and had the whole deal. And I spent some time there, and I realized, what wouldn't I be able to do now if I made that commitment? And I thought all these things just listed in my mind. So I decided I was going to go and do all those things. I was going to get them all out.
Can you learn some of those things?
Depends how PC this is, but basically I'll give you the PC version. So
what's PC? Depends on
parental.
It's explicit.
But like I was able to try certain types of drugs.
Ayahuasca, mushrooms.
Mushrooms.
Hey, we're big fans. We haven't done them yet though.
I even did DMT. I had some.
The awakening.
I had some pretty much mind-shattering, body-shattering experiences that took me outside of myself.
Those are on top of your list? Like, hey, let's... Because, you know, part of our journey is we are going to do ayahuasca. And she's more excited to do ayahuasca than mushrooms or LSD.
I just feel like I want to confront, like, the subconscious mind.
I did my...
It's not, like, excited, like, oh, I'm going to
No,
it's for the healing and the
development. You got to be prepared for it. I did mine in the depths of Brazil. We stayed with a tribe with no internet, no power for 2 weeks. In the Amazon jungle. We were living off... we were sleeping on...
So is that... But is this the first thing you did?
No, this is way down. This is sort of the end of the trip. But
okay.
I was sleeping on hammocks. We were catching crocodiles in the night.
Holy
we literally got them in the bit right across the wrist of my friend's hand. He had to get it stitched up. We had crazy experiences. We were catching piranhas. We were feeding the villagers. It was amazing. That's another little story.
The same friends you go out and...
one of them came on tour with me. Yeah, we went there together. It was incredible. We actually made the news in the end. They put us on the news and
had
this experience.
Neat.
But that's another. I mean, I could go into 100 stories. I mean,
absolutely.
Of some things that you did.
I mean, there's lots of things I could go into, but I feel like that could be for another podcast. But yeah, in essence, it was. I've been to 40 different countries, give or take. I've lived in many different cultures. I wanted to try the different foods. So I wanted to, before making the decision of settling down, I wanted to have the experience of living and breathing and interacting in each of these key cultures that I really wanted to.
That's awesome. Okay, so that makes sense. And so that's where we have you today. Or is there still a lot in between?
Oh, well, I mean, there's a lot to cover, but, you know, that's some of the key things, you know.
Before you settled down.
Yeah, before... settling down,
How about let me ask you about that. Where are you with that original paradigm of I want to do all these things before I settle down?
Oh, sorry.
Where are you at now in your journey? What are you?
Yeah, I was on my way to conclude what I was talking about being on the top of the mountain, right? So, so after living that way for a while and not having to do anything, living, you know, pretty much for my pleasures if I wanted, there was something deeply unfulfilling about that. And that's when I realized I was starting to make a genuine decision to really live with a purpose and a mission, right? But it hit me at a new level because part of it was connected to earning an income before. You know, like, I'm mission focused and I like to help people, but part of it was like, man, I'm getting paid for this as well. But then getting to the point where it's like, I fully just lived for myself. I did everything on my bucket list, took a year out, did it all, and then realized, you know, there's an emptiness. And then I realized the pyramid of fulfillment.
Yep.
So the 3 levels, I don't know if you heard of it, but you got right at the top, which most addicts live, is pleasure. The second rung down is where most society lives, happiness. The third, which should be the foundation, which most people have flipped upside down, is actually it's joy. And not enough people know how to access joy and how to have it ongoing. So what I realized, a big thing for me was living with a purpose, living my mission, to access my joy every single day. And whenever I engaged in that, life had a whole new meaning. It wasn't just pleasure, it was joy. And pleasure should be the icing on the cake. Joy should be the foundation. Happiness can come and go because it's circumstantial. The sun is shining. You have your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your car's working, and then it goes. It can go. Your happiness can go. But joy can ride through all of it.
Yeah.
Wow. So what you're saying pretty much is, well, before I actually kind of...
He's like, let me soak it in.
That was amazing.
I've always thought that, but you said it in a perfect, structured way. Yeah, because I've been looking for the joy. Like, I feel like we're here, But that's such a different level of living because
Yeah.
you aren't living for yourself anymore. You're living for others, and we're humans. Like, we do need to interact and help others. Like, that's fundamentally that's like in our DNA.
Yeah.
Like we were in tribes and gathers, and so that's really neat.
100%.
Let me ask you, in that year of pleasure, right?
Yeah, so pleasure was the top. So I had a
Did you-
year living for that, yeah.
Oh,
It was
well,
great,
yeah.
by the way. Like,
you
I
can
don't
do a
regret
lot.
it.
No regrets.
That's what a lot of people say too. Is like, I wish you had all the money in the world so you can know that's not everything. Right? They say that.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
wish
yeah.
you had it all, the fame, so you know that that's not everything. But my question then
Jim
too
Carrey
is,
said that.
yeah, Jim Carrey, is you didn't do anything. Essentially, joy sounds like to me is living your purpose, doing things for others, contributing, mentoring, just helping other people.
Okay.
So did you not do any of that in your first year, in the pleasure year? You didn't do any of that?
I did, but it wasn't the priority focus because the priority focus was sort of, it was quite self-centered in a way. It was focused on my own pleasure, everything that I thought I would regret if I didn't do this. So it was like,
I agree. That's totally yeah.
But I see life as that. I see a lot of people never individuate, and what I mean by that is they stay a product of their parents' values. They get married maybe at 21, and they go straight into having a burden and responsibilities, and they never individuate. And I believe individuate. And what I mean is you can be independent but not have individuated yet. A lot of people can be independent financially. They can be independent emotionally. They can be independent lives. They can tie their own shoelaces. But it doesn't mean they've individuated. Individuated means that you own enough of your own identity now that it's not important what everyone thinks of you. They don't shape your decisions and how you feel about yourself. So true individuation is going, these are my parents' values. These are the values that I'm exploring. And now I'm in a position where I'm going, yes, I like that about my parents' values. I like that about what I was taught as a kid. But now I've discovered all this in life and all these rich things from all these cultures I'm bringing into my life. And I want to pour into my kids now and to give them a choice. So I believe that middle gap before you settle down, in an ideal world, it's not for everyone, but I think for a lot of people it could be, the start's about collecting whatever you're given in life. The middle part is about you exploring who you are and what you'll accept as an individual.
Yes.
And then the next middle part is about finding that partner, or perhaps you might have already done that, but blend that together, but blend both your values together, form a new person, and then take the best version of what you know and what you've received in your life and pour that into your kids and allow them to make that same decision as they go on.
Yeah.
And that's what I see as the pattern of life. But I see that middle gap, particularly in America, and where travel isn't encouraged and exploration in some cultures in America is not entertained, just gets taken away.
Yeah.
We call individuating being woke now. It's kind of like
Hashtag woke.
I like
Yeah.
that.
it's like the new generation millennial. I didn't invent it. I'm like, we're in the middle. We're not like there's like a whole new wave of like kids these days that are just
millennials. Yeah, that were.
Or what's
we
the
are
next
kind of
generation after millennials?
Wasn't it Z?
Something like
Something like that. No,
after 2000.
Oh,
Because
okay.
we're 90s.
Awesome.
I forgot what it was called. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, that's amazing. So individuate. I do believe that's how we found each other because we both lived our own lives. I also believe that in relationships, I told her the whole story and that I call it and I explained it to her in long, but I'm going to give it short. Is some people are given lots in life, genetics or whatever, and your life might be easier than others or whatnot. But the most important thing is learning how to go into your life like a mechanic and know how to fix it, put it together and tune it up. Because if you don't know how to create your life, create your mindset shift, if you don't really know how to be the artist to your life, then you're going to be kind of tossed like a buoy or like a boat without a rudder. So what individuate could mean?
I think that means the same thing, right?
Yeah, it's that. It's like learning how to live. I want to write a book eventually too. It's called Learning How to Learn, and it's an art form because a lot of people just don't know that you can make wealth a study. You can make happiness.
Sure.
Like Jim Rohn says, if you want to be happy, study
Make a
happiness.
study,
If you want to travel, study traveling.
Yeah.
And then there's other components too, because when people give you the simple answer, if you want to travel, just travel. Are you afraid? And then is your self-image there? There's a lot of components. Yeah, there's a lot of components that you need a foundation to be able to take those risks and leaps. Because people can just drop it all and travel, but they're still empty inside, or they can make a lot of money, but their spiritual is suffering. So the new sought after success now is not just money.
100%.
It's not just fitness.
100%.
The new success has to be all of them.
Yeah.
You can't neglect things.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to advocate for as well.
Yeah.
And I feel like you do too.
Oh,
Yeah,
100%.
as a life coach. Yeah.
What's the point being the richest man in the graveyard,
Right.
you know? And
Yes.
it's the old adage, but it's true. And I, you know, I think growing up, if you don't have much money, you know, the real currency in life seems to be money.
Yeah.
And then when you earn all the money and you have no time, the real currency seems to be time. And then you go from time, you go, actually, what's the point of having time if you don't have rich experiences?
Yeah.
And then you go from that, you realize it's actually the day-to-day emotions that you experience, you know,
Yeah.
can be the true currency. So I teach a course, 7 levels of different freedom, you know, so you've got physical
wow.
freedom, emotional freedom, financial freedom, career freedom, and there's some others. And what I always say to students is, what freedom would you, if you could have any of those freedoms now, what would you have and why? You know, it's a really interesting question to ask, because a lot of people say, I just want the financial freedom. But I say, if you had the emotional freedom now, maybe you could be happy even at your work.
Yeah.
You know, and then other people say, I'd rather have the physical freedom because I can do what I want. But then if you're miserable, how's that going to serve you? So the understanding that the holistic nature, and that's what I build into some of my courses of personal development. I teach them, you know, how to have the hour of sharpening combined from Robbins and Covey, the idea that if you could just take an hour discipline each day and you could sharpen each of the key areas of your life, physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, you can learn something new every day. You're sharpening your body so you're feeling good, you're in shape, you know, and you're growing. And then you've got this, you're starting from this inner core and it's already spilling out into your life.
Yep.
It's amazing. We practice that ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that in you guys, by the way.
Yeah, I
That's
know.
why we met at the gym.
I know. I was like, we're going today. We didn't feel like going. I was like, it's discipline, babe. We have to
You call
go.
it an hour of sharpness?
Yeah, the hour of power, or I call it sharpening. It's my sharpening time every day because I believe in the principle of Kaizen. I don't know if you heard the story of Kaizen, but I absolutely love it.
Sounds German?
No, it's
Kaizen?
it's actually Japanese, and the company Sony employs it to a great extent, but it actually was formed during World War II. After World War II, it was war ravaged, and Jim MacArthur came over and he trained up a lot of the infrastructure of the CEOs and the powers that be in Japan, and they learned this concept called Kaizen, where they got everyone from the bottom floor sweepers to the top CEOs every day to make one small improvement. Just one.
Oh, wow.
It could be more, but just every day it had to be one. But that one didn't become 1% a year. They started compounding on top of each other.
Yeah.
And before you know it, you have this amazing Sony products being released to the world. Well, the same is true for our lives. You know, if we can just make one small improvement every day and you start getting momentum, you start looking forward to your hour of power and sharpening, and you never want to miss it. And then you get momentum and it becomes exciting. And so I look forward to my morning coffee, black coffee, where I'm in a fasting state, but I'm focused on learning, growing, and being fruitful. You know?
Yeah, so 2 things, we call that Miracle Morning. I don't know if you heard of
right.
that book.
No, I
Have
haven't,
you?
but I like that.
It's a
really
great book
good.
because
It's
it
exactly
takes it to the
what we
next
talked
level,
about,
I think.
And then the second thing is like compound effect, like doing something little every single day.
Kaizen,
and Kaizen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
I have
Tony
to look
Robbins
that up. Yeah.
does advocate for the hour of power, 30 minutes to thrive, 15 of fulfillment.
Yeah.
But what the Miracle Morning really did for us is he looked at all those morning routines and he called them the lifesavers. And essentially, you're going to do these 6 things every morning in that 1 hour.
Yeah.
And it's meditation.
Yeah.
Well, with the acronym S.
Yeah, so S for silence.
Okay.
Or scribing. There's 2 S's in saver.
So either one, yeah.
So yeah, scribing, writing, journaling, goal setting, which is something that I don't do as often. That's one that I don't do as often. One that we are on a 38-day streak right now, which is meditating for 20 minutes every day. We use Headspace, which is a guided meditation. And that right there is why we don't argue as much.
I think it's called, you like calling it arguments, I like calling it discussions. I don't think we agree on everything.
Spiritual debates.
Yeah, spiritual debates. There you go. That's a good one.
That's a cool one. Okay. Got another
Spiritual
one.
debates. Do you like that one better?
So yeah, well, meditation is how you still the ego and become more present.
That's true.
And then you read.
Yeah.
You need to read. Reading is incredible. You know the power of books. And I think a lot of days now, though, one side effect of technology is kids these days have shorter attention spans.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Bad nutrition, bad sugars, shorten the attention span. And my attention span fluctuates because I couldn't read, see at the top, I couldn't read that. So I had to go back to the book that improves my focus, which is our favorite book by far. It's called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And are you familiar?
I know Eckhart Tolle,
Yeah.
I like it.
So, meditation, exercise. So say there's exercise. Obviously that, you know the power of exercise too.
Affirmations and visualization.
Affirmations and visualization.
Yeah.
Which we don't do as well. Sometimes we affirm more than we visualize. Sometimes we kind of combine those. So we're probably doing that wrong. But those, even half as good done, is why we're here today.
That's amazing. That's so cool.
It's funny too, and I don't know, like you said, like you don't want to miss it. What happens to us, or to me personally sometimes, is it gives me so much success. So my plate gets full again. I have the work and all that stuff that I stopped doing it. But that was only when we were working jobs.
Yeah.
Or maybe when you were doing clients. So I wasn't working hard smart. So it would give me it would get me busy, and then I would forget what got me there in the first place.
Sure, it's classic. But I do a similar routine. Failing to plan is planning to fail. So the first thing I just plan out of my day, it just reassures my mind. But I literally have a flow of the day, right, when I plan my day. So there's patterns. I split the day into thirds, really. So the first third is about personal development. It's about enriching yourself and developing on you. The next third is about professional focus, and that's your career mission or whatever.
Okay.
And the last third is sort of about social connection. And I find those a perfect balance for me because I take the morning to really prep myself and do everything I want. So I've got nothing I'm holding on to myself. All those anxiety and stresses is gone, right? I would love society to work like this because I think people would be a lot more happy.
Yeah, that's true.
And
I think we could build that. We can help.
Yeah. And the next third is just all about focusing on doing your service for society, whatever that is, your mission.
The professional is...
whatever your profession is. I call it your occupation. That's the word I've coined.
Oh, that's cool.
That which
I like
occupies
that.
your passion. It's called your occupation. So I believe everyone needs to find their occupation, and that's part of my mission is to help people find their occupation.
And the third again? The third half?
And the third is about connecting, socializing. Everyone's part of a family, everyone's part of a friendship group.
Which is very
and
important.
that's a very important part of life. And sometimes they can merge and combine, but that's generally the flow of my day. So I first plan my day, the specifics of that.
I'm going to copy that now.
Yeah.
Patented.
I know, right? There you go.
Exercise and occupations being painted.
Not occupation, but the thirds.
And then I go into 10 minutes of just straight visualization. So I do gratitude and excitement.
At the end of the day?
No, this is all part of the morning routine. So I do the planning, the third thing, and then I'll do the visualization. So gratitude and excitement, what I'm totally grateful for, what's all the great things that just happened in the day before, and I'll list them out, and I'll just feel that and I hardly need to go to excitement after that because I'm so grateful. But then I go into excitement, and usually I do it for what I'm excited for the next 5 years, this year coming, this month, this week, and then today.
Wow.
And that gets you right in the place because you see all your goals as if they happened. And then I visualize 4 of my top goals in clear pictures. I've got pictures and I visualize them in depth, what they look like and what they feel like. And I imagine, they talk about imagine having already experienced them. That's when they become most real because your subconscious cannot tell the difference between the emotion of having experienced it and imagining it, right? So I literally live in celebration there for that time. And then I go into my next 10 minutes, which is basically all about my career. I do a 10-minute sharpening on my career, then 10 minutes sharpening on the mind, 10-minute sharpening on envisioning, moving the next brick forward and what I need to do. And then finally 10 minutes on enhancement, something to enhance for that day, and then I'm set for the day. Then I do my exercise. So enhancement is kind of like the Kaizen. It's taking any area, whatever you're most excited, just make a tweak on it, make it a bit better. So
like right now I'm trying to tread water for a longer time, make that a little better, which is my goal now. But let me ask you, I always feel like I'm grateful, and I think I'm very good at being grateful, but how do you practice gratitude? Because you struck a chord when I was hearing you think about, I feel like the lists, like I'm grateful for Violet, I'm grateful that we're here.
Yeah.
Does it, I just don't feel the emotion part of it sometimes.
Right, so it's
kind of
more
just
a
seems a
mental
little
thing.
flat. Yeah.
Like,
it's a little flat for me. I'm like, I'm really grateful, and I think I'm a very happy person, and I have the joy, but I think that's something that maybe I'm feeling I want to take to the next level.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's the most natural one I don't steer towards. I can be in an excited state much more easily than a grateful state. So I'm going to train myself to be more grateful if I want more of that emotion. But when I do spend the time genuinely to get grateful, I never regret it. Like I go, oh, that's what happiness is.
It's one of the most powerful things you can do.
Yeah, so gratitude, how do I do it? I go, what am I grateful for? And then I say, why? How did that make me feel? Like, what about that am I grateful? So you really try and embrace and ruminate in that emotion. and just stay with it for a bit. So much of this is not about rushing through it. The temptation for me, I'm always quite focused on the goal.
The next thing to do.
I'm quite eager to rush through it, but it's reminding myself that, man, I can just live in gratitude, and that can be enough. So when I do take my time, I always feel more balanced when I take the time to really immerse myself in gratitude.
Yeah.
So it would be like, for example, we could do this now, like, what's the thing at the moment that you would be the most grateful you are? What's in your heart comes to mind, not your head, but what goes into your heart. And I go, what are you most, if you to thank your creator or thank something in your life for being in it, what would it be? What do you?
Of course, it's my beautiful relationship. That's the first thing that pops into my head.
And tell me why you're so grateful for her in your life.
I just a lot of times feel too like I already feel it, man.
All right,
feel it.
That's all you need.
Okay, so maybe you're right. I think you triggered it for me. Is I rush through gratitude.
Yeah.
To get to the next thing.
I make that mistake as well.
And because I can get emotional just thinking about how awesome our relationship and how beautiful it is and how we complement each other. And so we're on the same page because it's so rare to find it.
That's
we know
amazing.
that's special.
Think about what your life was like before she was in it, right? Think about how much you longed for something like that to be in your life, and now you are living that dream. And all you got to do is anchor that to your nervous system for a while, and you go, flip, I'm already rich,
And I'll be honest too, on the podcast, something that she knows is I speed through emotions. I actually negate them and I speed through emotions.
I was actually going to mention that. I think I'm not trying to be like sexist or try to, just kind of pigeonhole something. I think it's just men. Because I feel immense gratitude every single day. And I can feel the emotion and I just sit there and I don't rush through it. Yeah. And neither do when I teach my sisters or I've observed with other women, like they can feel it. And I just think it's the way that women, being estrogen, testosterone.
I mean, you're exactly right. There's polarity and there's feminine energy, masculine energy. And that's why that's the beauty journey of men and women, right?
Yeah,
women are going to take time to smell the roses, and that's what's important is the relationship. It's always the connection.
Yeah.
It's not about getting the next investment. It's about making life rich now. Whereas a man, he's naturally driven to provide ultimately. So he naturally thinks to conquer, provide, set up so they can have that environment. But the woman's always trying to remind the man to come back in and smell the roses, and the man's going, no, I've got to earn the money for the right to smell the roses. So, it's a funny combination, but we need both, right? We really need both.
Yes, let's talk about relationships.
Yeah, right.
We're on that thread. What generally do you see and what do you say?
What do I see?
What do you see in relationships around you, whether growing up, your own parents, where do you see the world's current state of relationships, and what do you say about it?
Well, I see a fascinating dynamic, and I've had the privilege of meeting women from all around the world, having the opportunity to date different cultures, living in different cultures, so I feel really privileged and grateful to see where my life, I've had a snippet of my life there, and I could see what my life would be if I lived 100 years there or there. So I really can sense who I would become and what would happen. So that being said, I notice there are definite patterns in male-female relationships around the world. We come to the Western influence of feminism. We're the first wave feminism.
Right.
We're the second wave and the third wave. Now, I'm a big believer in what the woman did initially. I really love the fact they got the vote, and I really am an advocate for equality in a lot of different realms. Where I think it's suffocating a lot of men now is the third wave feminism. It's the pendulum swinging quite far, but it's creating a toxic environment for many relationships. Not all, but there are a number that can't handle the liberties of being in the West. And so it's creating this dynamic where no one knows what roles what, how to be a man, how to be a woman. Women are often taking the roles that men traditionally had, and then men are feeling inadequate if they don't earn as much as their woman. And then often women, based on how they've been wired up, they're always seeking a lot, not all, but many are seeking a man that earns more than them, and that's becoming very hard for many educated women now as they reach the top echelons of their career.
They can't have a professional career because
they're not seeing a man they can respect financially because he doesn't earn more. And I'm clearly not saying that for everyone, but I'm saying that is definitely a trend that's happening. So you've got the West like that, and then you go into, obviously a lot of Asian cultures, not all, because Korea, Japan very westernized, but then you've got very traditional ones in the Philippines and places of that nature, where it's more traditional. And so you've got this dynamic where you've got a lot of Western men coming and dating in these cultures, and you've got an intermarrying of them. So I see that as sometimes a perfect fit, because you've got a man that doesn't feel appreciated many times in the West coming, and you've got a lot of these women who don't necessarily feel appreciated in the patriarchal society, and there's this perfect match for a time where they both can appreciate what each other's bringing to the relationship. So there's that dynamic going on. And then Latin America, somewhere in between,
Yeah.
You've got a movement of obviously first wave feminism and quite a bit of influence from the West, but you've also got very traditional family values as well happening within Latin America. So it's this hybrid, but again, that doesn't exclude, there's still your ultimate feminists within there, and you've got the ones that are very traditional. So and that's sort of where I see the general pattern.
Yeah, that was
I guess I'll touch on it since you did talk about feminism and like the waves of feminism.
Yeah, I don't know what the waves are, but I think I kind of...
Great question, by the way.
Yeah, it is a great question because I feel like we sometimes get into that dynamic of like, oh, I earned more. But I think it's the attitude that the woman takes towards making more money. Because I feel like I don't flaunt it, and when I didn't flaunt it at him, but I would make him the man of the house, even though like it's not feminism in a sense. But I think like in a relationship where you're both alpha, like I think it takes the art of a woman and like her self-realization to know that she needs to make him a man, whatever that means, in a different area.
Right.
So I think that like I definitely want to write about a book about that too, about like how both of you can be alpha. But a woman does need to have her grace. And that was something that I had to learn because I was a super alpha and that's why he fell in love with me. But then at times, like I saw in our relationship, oh, don't be alpha here. Like he wants you to have the femininity. And I actually saw this on Tony Robbins.
It's a good example.
Because it was an issue and I was like, okay, like I am a woman. I do have like more estrogen than a man. And I don't expect him to have more estrogen than me. Like it's just not biologically sensible.
Sure.
So then he says like you need to have a balance of femininity and masculinity, but I need to have more femininity because obviously like I'm a woman. So then I cater to his masculinity and like let's say, okay, you're man of the house, here at the house, like okay, I'll do this with you, I'll do that, but I made more money in that time period. So I think like relationships as alpha is an art and it's challenging for a woman, and I can't speak from that perspective because we've been there. But I think it is possible that you can be an alpha woman and an alpha man. But definitely the lady has to have her grace. And I know like that's not feminist, but like I know my power. Like I know that I am powerful and I can make money, but I don't have to be rude about it. I don't have to try to act like a man because like men do want women with grace. And I say grace because it's men can have grace too. But I think it's something that women forget to have as a power, like the power, what is it called? Like the ego, the power highs. But you can still feel that, but also know that if you want to make it work with your man, like he has testosterone. That's just the biology of a man. And you need to cater to that. So that's what I can say about...
the terms better than that, and that was really well put. Because the way I want to word it, and you maybe will have better terms for it, is what I want to say you're saying is when you're self-aware, which is what you are, when you're very self-aware, and your ego's in check, and you're in tune with your emotions, we call me your love tank. Because when she wants me to be sweet to her, she knows how to act for me to be sweet to her. When I need her to be sweet to me, or and then we know how to turn on the conquer mode, masculinity. Like I need my identity. I need to go perform. I need you to validate my performance. I need you, so it seems like when you have your foundation, you know how to balance
you really
polarities, and that's what I want. I think you did a good job saying that. But here's the next thing is.
No, 100%. I think, you guys have an exceptional relationship, and I can see that from the outset. It's very unique in society. Where do I think it ultimately going? I think we're in a very interesting time of life because you can go back and you'd live how they lived centuries ago. Like I literally was an Amazonian tribe where they had very traditional roles. The men did a very traditional set hunting, gathering, fishing, women weaving, washing, preparing, cooking, very traditional set roles, right? So I think in this day and age, you can literally find what your predisposition is. So, and I think there are certain women that are predisposed to want that. There are certain women that will be predisposed to that. But I think the key thing as we move into the 21st century and beyond will be how does that hash out in the individual relationship? Because I think what's happened as a cultural movement as a whole, third wave feminism pushed the pendulum way out before it was way out masculine. First wave might have brought it there, second wave, a bit further. Third wave's now brought it out to the point where men are now feeling more and more pushed out and not accepted in a lot of society driven by third wave feminism. So I think what's going to happen naturally, and it has to, because women can't exist forever by themselves, what's going to happen is it's going to come back to the middle. But men often are the last voice to be heard in society when it comes from a well-off, middle-aged, middle-class man, because let's face it, they've generally had a very good way of life for many years, so why should anyone listen to the man? But it's when it starts to the detriment of a family and even women, when it starts to affect them, I think we're going to see a swinging back. But then I think we'll have the best of both worlds, because I think at that point there will be true equality. I think we can achieve equality. But I think it's going to be based on like what you two have done, being educated, and being a big thing, being respectful of each other, and
feeling. I remember now.
You're right.
Ignited, right?
Perfect place to talk about it. So that foundation, like you said, educated, that foundation, and then respectful, because what I was trying to say earlier is that we know how to fill each other's love tanks. So when she has needs for me, I know how to give them to her, and vice versa. And it's very apparent of being aware of those needs when we actually really argue. She wants me to be sweet. I actually get defensive and I get into attack mode. And she comes out very strong when she's angry. She comes out so strong that I feel like I'm being attacked. So now we're both going at it. And that's very apparent when our egos overtook us.
So then one of us has to say, okay, like, I'm
one
sorry.
of us has to just let the ego down.
That's brilliant.
And then it's back to the balance, because we are saying the same things. When you're arguing and it's mainly in a very good YouTube channel called The School of Life, and it talks about how to argue properly. It's always mainly that I'm hurt, or I have some needs, I need to be heard.
I'm being vulnerable with you.
Vulnerable. And it can manifest into like, why did you do that? Why did you leave your socks on the floor? Or whatever.
I don't say that.
Or she never says that.
I was like,
just
for the
throw away.
record,
You don't say
like,
anything. You don't really say anything, really.
Just letting it go.
But you know what I mean? Like, that's how it manifests when the ego is not in check. So I feel like that's one of the biggest things that people need to master first is their ego.
I mean,
Sorry. I feel like if you read The Power of Now, it talks a lot about like polarity, like femininity, masculinity, and I feel like that gave us a lot of insight to like the root of humans in general, and why our relationship works.
I think that's brilliant. One thing
that's why I interjected to go back to you. Of that is what you're explaining, the foundation.
And one thing that really, after my previous relationship, I really understood once I'd done Living Wisdom, which is what I referred to before. They do a whole session on unbearable feelings, and how you don't really know someone until you know their unbearable feeling. And you don't really know someone until you know their default mood. And so your default mood, what was conditioned in you since a child, and your unbearable feeling is the thing that you, above all things, is the most unbearable thing, and you'll do anything to defend yourself against that feeling, that emotion. And you don't truly know someone until you can have many unpleasant feelings, but until you get to the unbearable, that's when you get to fight flight with someone. And so, there's something called cross matching. And so when your two unbearable feelings trigger, that's when you're in the most danger of being in the most toxic form of relationship, because both are not in a very conducive mood for the enriching of a relationship. Both are in self-preservation mode. So, for example, someone's unbearable feeling could be embarrassment, or it could be rejection, or it could be humiliation, or it could be guilt. Depending on what the particular emotion that they just is toxic to them. And if you trigger that in the relationship, that's when all kinds of fireworks can happen, and that's when you truly see the real vulnerable person in need. But at that point, if they can work through that, and you can understand that, that's when you can see them at their worst, you can help them at their worst, and you can both help each other. But it's a lot easier said than done, because that's...
Well, you've experienced that, triggered by those toxic people back in the day. Me defending you, those kind of things.
It's like we're thinking about it now.
Because we've gone through some any couple has, and like you said, like working through them, it's also the person that's in the relationship has to be able to understand, oh, you have a blueprint. When this happens, you get triggered, and this is what it means to you. This whole time, it meant something totally different to me.
Exactly.
And so when you're kind of try to match up these two paradigms, you're able to understand each other better.
Yeah.
And obviously, it was really hard for me to understand emotionally a lot of times because I'm very emotionally. I think I'm a stoic, where I'm not too high on the highs, not too low on the lows. I think that's what it means.
Even keel, whereas you're up and down.
I don't think so.
She says she can feel. She lets herself feel the emotions.
Yeah.
Up and down.
But there's also sometimes.
Like
there's also sometimes where. It's true. She was up and down, and I'm working on teaching her.
No, I wasn't.
Remember,
I think it's very like high and like very low.
Okay.
But like it's not
very
consistent.
Low?
Yeah,
I was
think
teaching
it's really low.
You can get pretty sad and depressed.
Yeah.
And I was trying to teach her, babe, you don't have to go on level, and not that she's gotten that low, but let's just say there's your 0, 10 being your ecstatically high, and then -10 you're suicidal.
Yeah.
Whoa, not like that.
I know, but you've never gotten that.
Right.
But I'm talking about people can get that low.
Yeah.
I
It's just
only
like
get
this.
-2 at the most.
Right. Okay.
I have
so small lows, small highs. Keep it.
I think I
It's
can get
like
pretty
this
high
all the
as
time.
well.
Oh, good.
I don't
but
think
I
so.
make sure you don't.
I don't think so.
Maybe not.
This
maybe
is Antonio, and like you know what he's gonna feel the next day, like without a doubt. Nothing like, and it's a good
But
thing.
you like that? That's
I
good
do.
For you, right?
Like grounded, like he's so grounded. But then when I want him to feel for me, empathy, I can't get it from him.
I'm like, why are you choosing to feel sad?
the double-edged sword.
Like
Yeah.
unless it happens to him specifically, he doesn't have a perspective on it.
Yeah.
So that's how he is because he just sees everything like this. Like he never talks bad about people, never like says bad things about them.
I don't
like,
get sad.
He has
Maybe
friends,
I have cried a few times, but maybe no more than 2 or 3 minutes.
Sure.
And I know for sure it was because I had to be strong for my mom growing up.
The superhero effect.
Yeah.
So
wow.
So we've identified these, but keep going. You you keep
so
talking.
you were talking about, what did you call it?
The unbearable feelings.
The unbearable feelings.
Okay.
And you don't know it unless you've uncovered it. You don't know it until it hits. So it could be being trapped. Sometimes it lingers in your subconscious until you encounter that. But so often as adults, we've developed so many survival kits from childhood of how to avoid those feelings. And those survival kits were helpful when you're a kid from stopping being smacked or stopping being embarrassed. But now they can stop intimacy as we grow older. So the idea is to give away the survival kit, the thing that helped you survive from that emotion, and then to relinquish it and then develop true adult skills. And that's part of individuation as well, is to come face to face and for that emotion.
Awesome.
Feeling trapped or feeling depressed or whatever, or feeling bored, whatever the unbearable feeling is, come face to face with it, yield to it, and at that point you're truly free. You go to the next level of freedom.
Right.
I think a lot of men, like you were saying too, survival kits, as a man, you need those. Because maybe your dad was tough to you or he wasn't there.
Sure.
And so a lot of males suppress the emotion, don't show emotion, especially towards other males. Yeah, right?
I don't know.
So do you think, 2 questions is, where are you in that journey? And then do you think ayahuasca is going to show you your unbearable emotion or feeling?
That's a good question.
And start working on it? Because I feel like maybe that's what's going to happen when I do ayahuasca. I'm going to get so emotional and I'm going to be confronted with it, and who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, so the first part of your question was,
where are you at in your
in my journey of
unbearable feelings? Or
well, I came from 3 older brothers, quite a conservative type culture, so it was taught you don't cry if you're a man, you suppress your emotion, and that, and I think there's certain cultural things that will. So it's just the journey to realize, to become one with your emotion, because in Jungian psychology, which I've studied quite in depth, which talks about your shadow side, it's the part that if you don't become one with it and yield and identify with it, it will trip you up when you least expect it. It will sabotage your life. So for example, if you spend, it's all the parts of yourself that weren't accepted or wanted that you've learned to hide from society, that didn't want them in your upbringing or growing up. So maybe the way you laughed, maybe the way you cried, it could have been this sense of humor you had, whatever you've been taught to suppress and shut out. You learn, just through social learning, you learned that wasn't accepted at that time, but you've made a decision, it's unacceptable as part of you, so part of you end up hating because it wasn't accepted socially, because it didn't gain you the approval of the masses, which in traditional worlds would have meant you're need for survival,
Right.
And so you end up hating that part because it's the part that's going to cause you to die. So my journey through Jungian psychology and all the rest of it was learning just to become one and accept the goofy part of yourself, accept, the loving part, accept the vulnerable part, and it's not by any means the finished product, but it's a journey towards becoming one and accepting everything of who you are, because those things will trip me up in the future unless I learn to yield to them. And the second part of your question was...
Do you think ayahuasca can actually...
well, ayahuasca...
They said it's 1,000 therapy sessions in one.
I mean, it is high energy, high impact. I do not recommend it to anyone that's vacationing as a party drug, and I...
It's not a party drug.
But I would be very... But like
DMT's
DMT's become the westernized version of it, and that was even a way more powerful experience for me, was I got it injected into me. But my experience is it was transformative. You will see things that you didn't encounter. It will be a spiritual experience. So you've got to be very up for it, to the point where I don't know if I would do it again, just because of how it affected me in so many different levels.
For the better,
I would tell you this: take your top emotion, the best you've ever felt in your life, times it by 10, and then times it by 100 again, and suspend that in air for a while. Then take your top fear, times that by 10, times by 100, and suspend that in air. Those two I've experienced in the one trip. So you can say that
I know, me too.
that was with DMT, the more concentrated form. Ayahuasca was a bit more of a mild experience. But if you do it fully, that's in essence what you get out of ayahuasca is the DMT.
But here's the other thing. I don't know if you knew this, but I think I've watched like 3 documentaries, and so I can say something about it. Even though I've never done it, is that the shamans playing the music Icarus or whatever, they call it like a separate entity or something that is guiding you through the healing process. Was there music playing when you did ayahuasca? Did they do that? Yeah, they did that. But did you feel like that was actually...
It definitely does influence your trip, because... But even when I'm doing DMT, I had this TV screen on, and that became a living entity. So I think anything that you have in your environment will become part of your experience, so the music, whatever. But they talk about altering your third eye, which is the sixth chakra. The idea, and that's the thing which helps you dream. So it's like you're having a real live dream, but you're seeing all these beings that could actually be real in another portal. We just don't have the normal access, because when we open the third eye, we get to see things that we've never seen before, right? So that's in essence what's happening. You're releasing the DMT from that the pineal gland, which is very close to the melatonin, the serotonin. The melatonin when you go to sleep is very connected to that hormone.
The sperm molecule, because I guess when you die, you secrete DMT. They say, I don't know.
So I got brought up with a Christian background, and I had some religious. Very touching experiences with God growing up throughout my upbringing. So part of me was very hesitant doing ayahuasca because of my beliefs around, could be demons in there or that sort of thing. And so I had to be very mindful of that, what I was taking on. And so I don't know whether it's that you see those entities because you're predisposed to believe that what you're seeing is from your religious point of view, or you're actually seeing them. I'm yet to draw a conclusion of that.
But that is intense.
I do know it's probably beyond the scope of this podcast, but in another one, I go really into great detail of the implications of all of that, which gets more into belief and spirituality and things of that nature.
Which we're well versed in that too. Man, well,
I feel like we've just skimmed the surface.
I know.
The next things I want to ask you about our spirituality and your religious journey and your spiritual journey, because we have a huge part in that. Yeah, there's a patio light, I think, over there, but it's up to you. Like, I don't know. Do you want to?
Well, the video chat.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you have some more time.
Yeah. Well, what time do you have to go?
Well, I'm just texting him right now.
Yeah.
I think I can.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
it's flexible because I feel like we have some good momentum going on.
Yeah.
And you never know. Tomorrow's not guaranteed or promised.
Yeah, exactly. So.
And you're flying out too, so.
Yeah.
You mind if we?
Let me shoot. Yeah, let's take
some
it
more
down.
Time. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me check on the camera. Check on the stats here. Then I'm going to ask you about spirituality. First, before I forget them, I do want to ask you about your social. I think that's important because
because
that's how we even got here. I do want to ask you about spirituality and your religious journey, because we've had ours, and they were quite profound, our spiritual journeys.
For sure.
Awesome. Wow.
And take a pick. Which one you want to start with?
Well, now we were sort of fresh onto, because you want to do like the relationship stuff, the social stuff.
Yeah.
All of those good things.
But I think we're on the spiritual track. So I might keep going down that vein
spiritual track
and fill you in. So
cool. Your spiritual journey.
Yeah, my spiritual journey. I mean, growing up, conservative Christian home, didn't really own it for myself, and was just sort of doing my own thing. Went to an Easter camp, and they were having during one of the services they had a lot of worship going on, and a friend and I said, let's go up for a bit of a joke, it'll be quite fun. So we went up, and then I'll never forget what happened next. I experienced something which, to this day, I was 15 when it happened. I still remember it today, and something came upon me at that point, and I can only associate it to liquid love, just poured through my body. And this thing, just said, I'm real, I'm here, and I care.
Wow.
And that instant that love filled me, I was just filled with kind of like the meaning of life. I mean, to me, that holds out as probably the top experience of my life. I cannot compare anything to that incredible, loving, intimate feeling. And I spent that whole night just fully in song and worship and, just this closeness. I can only believe that it was my creator. Now,
you revived me. Did you have any story?
Yeah, I did twice.
You never told me that. Tell me.
No, I didn't, but go ahead.
No, because so we can all collaborate too. Because remember, I do want to ask you, because we never really talked about anything that we benefited from our beginning religious journeys.
Right. I didn't, for sure.
You did?
I don't like talking about it.
Oh yeah.
I don't
She doesn't like talking about
do.
It. And I never asked you if you've gotten anything great. Did you get anything spiritual in that journey? But we'll talk about that one later too.
Yeah. So following on from that, I really got what you call religious. And got heavily into the Bible and all of those things. And
what type of denomination?
So it was. You call it Baptist, I guess.
Baptist,
you call it. But I was very. I'm the sort of person that when I believe in something, I give it my 100% all. And then, I had a few speed bumps along the way, and a few things get me to maybe doubt aspects of the religion. And I count myself as spiritually open and spiritual, but not necessarily religious. And certain things made me to really go, wow, is it really like this? Should I really take the Bible like this? And I just saw so many, not contradictions, but seeming contradictions or ways that was hard to interpret the Bible and things like that.
Why is there killings in the world, or why did this have to happen, or some complicated questions that they don't have answers to?
Yeah, I mean, I could understand many things, like why is there war and violence? I could understand that from the idea of the original sin being the fact that without choice there is no love, and without love, what's the purpose of God creating humans with a free choice? If we can't have free choice, we can't express love. The only one thing that we could offer God was our obedience, our ability to choose something against him or choose something for him. And I believe that we gave his choice as our gift back to him, because there's nothing else that we can offer him. We can't offer him gold because he created it all. We can't offer him anything. We can only offer him the gift of choice.
So what were some of those things that made you kind of, did you say questions?
There's questions, like I couldn't understand why there seemed to be this feeling, maybe it was my interpretation of it, of just kind of like a buzzkill, or like there were so many don'ts and not enough do's, and it felt like there was just a lot of kind of like trying to be good to sort of be good with God, and I didn't quite get that. It felt like there was a lot of things taken out that I felt we should be able to express and enjoy with a free mind and a clear conscience, and I felt like I didn't know whether that conscience was coming from God, coming from the Spirit, or coming from the community. So I had to, that's part of my individuation, was going, well, do I want to hold on to this or don't I?
Was it challenging? Did you feel, because I know that you can feel very conflicted for even having those thoughts. Like, oh, no. Like, you can't think those things, like you're deviating. Did you ever feel, because that's kind of built into the religion.
100%, but then I had to, but I believe that the religion, if it's of value, has to be robust enough to handle doubt, debate, criticism. It has to, you have to be able to challenge your faith. Because I believe it's strong, you're going to come back to it. And so then I just came through the point where I had to hold both. My experience with both realities. Like, yes, on one hand, I believe in a God, and I believe in a creator, and I believe in something amazing out there that's beyond this life. But on the other hand, I don't exactly know what that is. And I'm not willing to tell someone else how to live when I myself aren't completely convinced that I should be living that for myself. So that's when I drew the line going, you know what, I just hold it both out in my spiritual quest and journey and go, yeah, I'm open, but I don't know for sure. And that's the way. And so that led me on to these other paths of being open to ayahuasca and DMT.
How did you discover those? Joe Rogan or?
Not Joe
Rogan. That's how I heard of them.
Mine was actually just more researching another guy, a British guy who had been on YouTube.
Ooh, his name's Graham Hancock.
No, a different
He's
guy.
a popular British.
No.
Could have been. Yeah, I'm trying to think of his name. But yeah, he'd gone right through the ritual and the cleansing and all that, right inside Peru and the Amazon, and completely got a rebirth, so to speak.
Might have been Dorian Yates.
Yeah.
Because
No,
he's
that's the
also
bodybuilder
British.
guy.
He's a
Yeah, no, not
bodybuilder.
that guy. But I met the guy that knew him in the Amazon.
no
Many years
way.
ago. Yes, I met the guy that
Cool.
took us on
That
the
is
tours.
so good.
Yeah, so it was crazy.
So you heard it from a British guy.
Yeah, I just researching it, and then I looked at more and more stories about ayahuasca, and it became quite
What does that
intriguing.
Google search go for you? Because I don't think people know about psychedelics, and they think terrible. A lot of people think terrible things about them. So it's not like you get the idea like psychedelics. Like I didn't know they existed. For the longest
I
time.
heard that the reason why we taboo psychedelics because in the 60s, people were becoming more and more open-minded and they were becoming more and more outside the system. We're coming back to that analogy.
Yeah.
Government didn't like it because they weren't going to have people to pay the taxes. People were going to go flower power. And they didn't like it, so they slammed it as illegal, forced people back into the mold, and then put a taboo on it.
That's exactly what happened.
You know? That's the idea behind it anyway. But no, I think psilocybin, for example, is been shown as very restorative for people with mental illness and depression and helping that. And I don't so much look at now what's evil and what's wrong. I look at what's beneficial for society. And when I look at a lot of what these drugs are doing in psychedelics, they're actually producing very pro-social things and pro-transformative things for many people that use them. People that give up smoking for the rest of their life after they take ayahuasca, or experience DMT.
Yeah.
So I'm not convinced that you can just say taboo on everything, drug-wise.
Do you remember how you started that journey? How you attracted it to you?
Which part?
How you discovered it?
Ayahuasca, or
For me, it was Joe Rogan. For you, it was probably me. But
Yeah,
you hadn't
it's-
heard before.
I had heard about it before, but I mean, from my upbringing, it was taboo.
I think
It
mine was just YouTube recommendations
Yeah.
somehow.
Thank you, the algorithm.
Algorithm drew me into it. Yeah.
Watch this next.
This is interesting. Based on this, and this.
That's
the
true.
fact that you're interested in exploring Peru, the Machu Picchu, and the Amazon.
Did you
You
know-
might be interested in this. Okay, cool.
Okay.
But about that is YouTube is starting to ban a lot of things that have to do with
They hide it.
conspiracies. They're
Yeah.
hiding it because people are making things up, and that's why your speculation is always important. You have to do your own research. You have to double check things. You have to see other sources because people can create something that looks very real,
Yeah.
but they just made it up.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's why YouTube is on that. But I don't ever believe in stopping information. But then they'll create another YouTube or something.
Yeah.
So, and then eventually, and I'd given up on DMT for a while. I got back to New Zealand. I'd had my big OE, my bucket list. I'd done everything on my list, and I was like, yeah, I'm pretty happy. The one thing I hadn't done was DMT, but you know what? I've done ayahuasca. It's enough. It was cool, but that's cool. And I'd just forgotten about it a while. And then I got into personal training, and I was training a guy back in Christchurch, New Zealand, and he found out that I was really interested in DMT. And he says, because I just transformed my body from 20% body fat to 5% body fat in 6 months, eating McDonald's, KFC, and my ice cream, because I wanted to prove that you could eat what you wanted and still get in the body of your dreams.
That's cool.
Right?
So
So I've got before and afters of showing sort of my body shots along
That is so
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But you're terrible on the inside, but you can lose the body fat.
Yeah, but it was to say that you could still have those weeks and not feel guilty about it and go back to eating well if you wanted, and you could still
Okay.
get the results. So
Okay.
it wasn't the be all and end all.
Hey, next trainer right here.
I know, right?
So anyway, I was teaching him this, and then he suggested, well, I don't have the money to pay for you, but I do have access to DMT.
What?
Okay.
And I was like,
It's like, was I thinking about DMT yesterday? Because it just showed up right here.
so it's crazy how things work in life, right? So,
That's so crazy.
yeah.
That is still yet to happen to us. Like,
Okay.
So I decided to say, yeah, why not? Let's do this. I'll train you up for free. Well, not for free.
For the
In
exchange.
I'll
Yeah.
get this DMT,
Okay.
which could be far greater than money, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, they come into my sleep. I lay on the bed, and this guy's like this modern day shaman. He's from England.
Okay.
Pulls out this needle.
Okay.
And he gives it a flick.
Gosh.
Gets out this arm here.
It's like, you sure this is not heroin?
Finds one of these veins. I don't know if it was that vein or that vein. It's one of them. Goes to shoot it up, right? And then they leave the room, and then I just lie back and relax. And I'm thinking, oh, nothing's happened. It's fine. And then the next thing I know, I'm starting to feel relaxed. Oh, this is weird. Then I start giggling and laughing. And it gets more and more, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Like, I'm laughing a lot. And then I start to understand the chakras, right? So I'm going through the different stages of the chakras. And what?
Did you do that, or?
And this is where I believe what the Kundalini is. Got a lot of research after this, is such as Kundalini, which they think is a 3.5 coiled snake at the base of your spine that resides there, right?
I've heard of it. I don't really know what it is.
And the idea is when you do yoga, it rises up through your different chakras to the pinnacle, third eye, and then ultimately the seventh chakra. You are able to enter that enlightenment stage, right?
And people can do that with yoga.
Well, and that's the idea, is that you can do this. But DMT is like the shortcut; it goes instantly to it. But what I felt come through me was literally something came through my feet, through my legs, through my spine, and I was literally levitating on the bed. So if you could imagine, my feet were touching the bed and my whole body was arced.
Literally, or like you felt it?
Literally. I wish I just had a video or someone was there to see it, but I was in the air, something was holding me up in the air.
Wow, that's so crazy.
And then I pretty much went through, the different sequences of it. So I felt joy like I'd never felt. I felt this sense of just like laughter, just joy, happiness. It was a weird thing to feel, but it was just
the liquid happiness, or
different.
Totally
Like that. I think liquid happiness was beyond another dimension, another realm. I think that for me that was directly with God, and that was something incredible. This was just it was different. It had a different color to it. It had a different feeling to it. Then it went to another level, and I felt love and connectedness. And this one was like it sounds weird, but I could feel the universe breathe in time with me, and that was the special part. And then I could just start to see other beings, and then something came through me, and I could see. And I thought I was Muslim, but I saw this creature just with these huge muscles around me, and that's when the trip literally turned. So I went from this incredible experience, and then I went to this other zone, and I went into this dungeon, and I felt like I was in there for an eternity. It was darkness, it was blackness, and
you felt like you were in there forever.
Teach me a lesson. And my brother had just died, a few months prior to that, at 40 of cancer.
Wow.
But it was like I could sense in some way I needed to say something to him. I didn't know whether he was there or not, but I felt like in that zone I was able to say something to him, to contact him.
In that dungeon area?
Yeah, just in that zone where I just felt a million miles away from anything, but you're in this other spiritual zone. It's a really hard thing to describe, but you realize at that point you're not just your physical body, you're this other person that's been living all the time.
Right,
you're the spiritual being having this human experience, but it's so shut away from us because of the system that we never really identify with it. But anyway, and I felt like I needed to say something to him, and then I felt like constricted, and and finally I said, I love you. And when I said that, I just felt this huge, I don't know, was it me sighing or the spirit sighing or him sighing, but just a sigh of relief, and then the whole vision experience just like expanded into something else, and then then I went into like this wisdom zone where I was just seeing, I thought I had insights, like what we're describing. These insights seemed nothing compared to what I was then getting downloaded at that point in my trip. I mean, I was seeing layer upon layer of insight and wisdom, which was beyond earthly. It was
different dimensions you're looking at.
Different dimensions, different zones, different colors, different things. It was just incredible, and different words had different meanings, and you just saw, wow, it was just mind blowing. And so I saw wisdom for a while, and then this creature, whatever that sort of was coming through me, felt it like grabbed me by the throat, strung me on the bed like this, and this is where. I don't know whether it was my background in religious thinking or whether this actually happened, but at that point I heard a knock on the door, and my friend said, "Are you all right? Come in." And this thing at this stage was gripping my throat, and so, but it released it from me, and I was able to say, "No, it's all right. Don't come in." I said, "Don't come in." I'm going.
Were you making a lot of noise or something? Or?
I don't know what they could hear, but then it grabbed me, and I said, "If I could, I would." And then it showed me into this other dimension where I could be, and it said, if I could, I'd rip you out of your body and I would take you down to the depths of this experience. And then I was calling on God. I was calling all things to
So
do this.
you were afraid there.
At that point, yeah. I mean,
This was gripping you.
I was fighting for my life. I mean, this
Were you
thing,
able to see that entity holding you?
I can show you a picture of what the entity looks like, and I can Google it, and I can show you what it looks like.
Is that because you've seen that image before?
No, I'd never seen it before, but I just, from my impressions, from what I can see in the arms.
Because I feel like if I
legs,
see it, I'm gonna see that one too, and I'm gonna be scared.
But I couldn't see the face. I could only get the impression of it. But then hearing that, calling on God and having that experience just start to peter out was incredible. But post that, so I say be very mindful and careful of that, because I couldn't sleep properly for the next 3 months. I was woken up, with the smallest noise. I've got a fridge in my room, and when it made a noise, I would be jumping. So that's what I was saying. Times that most of the magical feeling, and times by 100, by 10, but also fear to another whole level as well. So my greatest incredible experience got turned upside down by this experience.
But you said it was incredible, though. You said that, like, in a bad way?
I mean,
or you said that you found out what happened afterwards.
It's just like the highs are intensified, but then the lows are intensified. So it's like the lowest of the lows. So it's like the highs of the highs and the lowest of the lows.
Did the lows teach you anything? Like, would you, if you could, you would take those out?
If I could, yeah. I mean, if it would just been that, I would have been signing up to do it again and again, just the highs.
Yeah.
But with that, you really think twice, because it affected my sleep. But in saying that, it affected me so much. I was so grateful to be alive. I just saw life at so many
So it almost
levels.
kind of like was killing you.
I feel like I've heard of people, they never return. From some people that do, I ask, never return. But it's very uncommon.
Yeah, I've heard of that too.
It can happen, but I can understand how that happens, because you literally enter into another dimension, which I'm still saying to this day is more real than the dimension we're talking right now. Wow. You literally know that's really where you're supposed to be living.
I'm almost getting chills on that.
Yeah, so that was phenomenal and mind-blowing.
I want to linger on that one, though. I don't know why, but it seems like I'm feeling entertained by that scary image you just told us about being strangled. Can you tell us more detail? Like, did you see that person? I'm kind of imagining a beast, like a demonic beast.
If you think of like Doom, something like that.
I'm not familiar with Doom.
Well, if you YouTube Doom, the game, you can see there's a certain beast.
You can show me later.
I think it's called a cyber demon. Look very similar to that.
Very scary.
But
it's fear that you. It's hard to describe the kind of fear. I can understand people being scared to death. I think it's a real thing. I know how people get scared to death.
Yeah, me too.
It was like horrifying.
Like phobias, like phobias. Like,
but at the same time, I had the sense, it was weird, because in one sense there was petrified, but in another sense I had this deep sense that even though I could feel the strength of this beast, I still, in a sense, deeper down felt safe, like I still had God.
Yeah, because you were calling on God.
Yeah, but without that, I can imagine you just...
Without having a positive entity.
Oh, okay.
If you're an atheist, what?
No, yeah, you said it better if you have a positive entity.
Because if you're atheist, what do you got?
Yeah. If you're atheist, you hopefully just part off on your mind and just say it's just mind tricks, but like...
Science is not real.
Well, I think that's the whole point.
But this is one thing that does convert many atheists to agnostics, is going, a lot of them after doing these types of trips go, I believe there was nothing, and now I believe there's something.
This is incredible. Why did you not let them come in the room?
I just felt in such a vulnerable position. This thing had me, man. I didn't want anything interrupting the experience.
You didn't want to get them angrier?
I just felt I was in the experience still, and I didn't know what was going to happen next.
And you wanted to let it unfold.
Yeah.
So you never felt like pull the plug.
Oh, I did. I was calling God. I just wanted the whole thing to stop. As soon as it went bad, I wanted everything just to stop. I'd do anything about it, but I couldn't. Once you're in the trip,
you said it felt like forever? Did it?
Oh, no, during that dungeon time, I felt like I could be in there forever. Like, because time takes on a new dimension. Even though the whole trip's probably about 30 minutes, in that dimension, you're like, this could be eternity. It's like, because...
This could be, or did it feel that way?
No, part of it did, until I entered into what I needed to uncover in that session. So what I'm saying is, and this is totally speculation here, but this is some spiritual thinking around it. If you die in a certain state of emotion, a certain set of beliefs, you're potentially bound to exist within that for eternity. So if you die with bitterness and non-forgiveness and no love in your heart, you're potentially to live out that for eternity.
Unless you get reincarnated?
Well, I don't know about that. I'm not 100% on the beliefs around it, but But there's something to that about being caught in a state forever. When you harden your heart enough to life, about the gifts that life gives you, when you harden it to the point where it's all about bitterness, then potentially I could see that could be the dark dungeon. It could be your reality for a very long time. And it felt despairing to be in.
And that's kind of your speculation after seeing that.
Well, for me, I think what the lesson that had, because I go, what is the lesson? I was trying to search for what is it they want me, because I felt like it'd be easy to shut your heart away from love because people have been hurt before and just stay there in this dungeon. And it's better for some people, maybe think, to stay in that place, to not show their emotion with the world or not show love because they've been hurt. But I felt what I needed to say is, I love you. And then I felt the sigh of relief happen. I thought, how many people are going to be trapped forever in that dungeon of their own prison because they haven't learned to love?
Wow. So you're essentially, you told us that story, and we can infer the context of you might have had something there with your brother that subconsciously wasn't said, or maybe something that was felt. Or
well, I think the more I look at this, I look at DMT and God and everything, I think the key answer always seems to come back to love. I think the biggest lesson we can take out of life always comes back to the ability to love, to receive love and give love. That's what we're here for, I think, ultimately, when it boils down to that, right? But I think brother relationship, you're not thinking that, you're not feeling that, you're not necessarily giving that, you're just going about your life, and maybe there've been some things, unresolved issues. But
is that what kind of happened?
But I believe that's what his spirit was wanting to hear from me, and that's what I needed to say to him.
Okay, so it didn't really come from you on your end. It was maybe that spirit kind of brought you there to set it free.
Well, I believe I needed it for myself as well. I needed to say that for something in me, but I just felt like that was something that needed to be said. And I don't know whether it was purely for me or for him, but that was just the experience that I had.
That's incredible. What do you think now?
Well,
about doing some psychedelics.
I don't know about DMT, but I can see. I need to research DMT. I'm not going to just do something because somebody tells me to do it.
Pure form, right?
Yeah, concentrated form.
That's the westernized version. Just shoot it straight up.
Oh.
It's a shortened trip, so it's 20 minutes intense. You'll be guaranteed to break through. More so than ayahuasca. Ayahuasca comes with the vomiting quite often, potentially
because
diarrhea.
It's very acidic, right?
Yeah, it's a poison you put in your body. You got to hold it down for it to have its effect, go into your bloodstream, and then spew it up because there's so many toxins, right?
They claim, the shamans say that that's you purging bad things, or do you think it's because it's toxic?
Well, I think literally it's a toxin, so your body is getting rid of it, but it breaks down into that chemical of the DMT, which, if held in your system long enough, will transfer into your bloodstream to give you the effect of DMT.
But do you know what I mean by, like, the shamans think that you're purging guilt, you're purging past hate, you're purging your subconscious traumas, you're purging that in the form of your excrement, that that's what they think is good, that it's good that you're purging it, or it's actually something that, maybe I could do away with the vomiting and the...
I believe you could have, because I think DMT is so powerful, I never saw the life the same after that. There's never been a day go by since that experience, which I haven't thought back to that experience. So I believe you could still have your transformative experiences without the purging. Okay,
so that's not really actually...
But that's my take on it.
I think so too.
But yeah, but I can see their take on it and why they see it, and that's fine. But I just believe you can still get an incredibly transformative experience without having to go through that ritual. But I saw that there's something special about being there and going through the ritual as well.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's kind of like
having done
respecting it, the
being in
the
that nature, that environment, you get some other vibe going on as well.
I gotcha.
But ultimately, it's the DMT that has the effect. That gets you to have a mind change. Yeah.
Right.
And you said it's just vomiting and some diarrhea, you said?
Oh, not for me. Don't get any visuals there. But,
why are you asking these questions?
No, I'm
preparing myself. You already know this.
But I say many people, report that. I definitely had the vomiting after 40 minutes, which is about the time. And then the hallucination set in after the vomiting. But yeah, after if it passes through your system enough, then you'll get the other end as well.
Interesting.
It's common to do it in different days. Start slow, and different days you up the dosage of the amount in the cup. I think I heard that's how they do it.
They train your body, so you got to be in a certain diet, a certain ritual. You do some
right.
fasting.
You did that
very clean diet. Yeah, I did the clean diet, and minimal food, and all that. And then they have the music, the shaman, and the preparation, and then they just they test you out.
Yeah.
They test you out.
Yeah, well, they just see how you go with that dose.
Yeah, because they don't want to give you too much.
They'll monitor you,
Yeah.
It's incredible. So I'm still stung up
Let's
still
let it
stuck
go.
on the
I know. Let's let it
the
go.
demon, man. Like, okay, because
Maybe.
I've had a dream
Okay.
where when I was very religious on my spiritual journey, just towards the Bible and Christianity, there was times where I would see scary movies like The Exorcist and stuff like that, and I'm by myself at home, and then you're hearing things, and you're like you're praying, and that would calm you down.
Yeah.
Like the praying and like God, you're calling on God, and they would go away, or that's what you would hold on to when you're afraid of the dark. That's what you hold on to when you're afraid of that demon that you're pretty much putting there with your own mind, and it's for looking back now, obviously it was never there. And in my subconscious dream,
I have to disagree with that because
it could be there. You're right.
Yeah.
It could be there. You never negate things in the spiritual realm. You always leave that room for doubt. But I had a dream where it's a cold, dark exorcist setting, rainy night. There's a big, tall demon with the horns and the hooves and everything. And because I was, I guess, practicing the Christian religion at that time, I went up there and would like I was a priest, and I defeated the demon in my dream. And it was very profound for me when I woke up from that dream, because I realized that common Christian saying is, if God's for me, who could be against me? Perfect love casts out all fear. A lot of those good Christian sayings. So that's why we still respect the Christian religion, because we think all religions are tools, just like a bow and arrow, a sword, a shield, a tool that is trying to help you hit the bullseye. Because if you don't use your own thinking, you can have some of the fanaticism that bring it down and make it look like, killing people in the name of religion and stuff like that. So you obviously use your reason with that, and you use the tool.
So why are you hung up on the demon? Because you relate to him?
Because if I face the demon again, I want to know.
Call on God, right?
You just call on God, and
well,
you
for
felt
me,
good.
when I called on the name of Christ, the whole thing changed. It stopped. Like I felt like it was almost going to rip me out of my body. I was going to go.
And it said that if I could take you,
if I could, I would rip you out of your body now.
And take you
I would
where?
Take you.
Did you see where
I could
it was
only
gonna
imagine
take
it was
you?
the depths of hell. I could just see down into this portal, and it didn't look nice.
Right.
Let's just say that. And so I don't know if that's my background telling because of the belief of hell and demons, whether that's in my makeup, that's creating part of that vision and that image.
That's what I
in
want
that
to talk about
moment.
next. That's why I brought it up.
Yeah, and so this is the hairy part, whether this is a reality and it's there's a black and white, there's a spiritual realm, and that there are demons and there are all these
Angels
entities.
and demons.
Yeah, and there's this war going on, and there's a heaven and a hell, and
I wanted to talk about that. That's why I brought it up again, because why do you think that happened? Reflecting on it now, and go into detail about. Are you saying that you don't know if that's because I was taught demons and angels, and that's why I was there, and that was the most it'll like DMT will look in your mind. Oh, you hate spiders? I'm gonna get a spider and I'm gonna put it on top of you.
I think it's the point, right?
Is that what you mean?
Exactly.
Or
So,
do you actually think that there is those demons?
Well, this is what I'm still grappling with even today, and I'm asking for guidance on, because I believe this has huge implications for life, right? What I end up following, what do I do? Because if I knew 100% that there was a black and white reality I wish to follow, then I'd devote my life to it, right? But because I'm like going, I don't know, I'm using my own reason and a bit of the Bible, and I'm going, I want to live my way, but at the same time, if God says that's wrong and this could be the result, then I definitely don't want to live that way, but I'm open to God on it. And that's the battle that I have, and I don't know whether DMT brings up from your own subconscious and it just relays and it projects out of your eyes and your subconscious what you believe to be true, or what you believe to have been taught, or what you've been taught, or whether you just, another world comes in and you're able to see out of this new third eye and you can see this world as it is.
Yeah.
And you're interacting with these beings at that level. I don't exactly know which one, but what I will say is the experience was so real, and I didn't feel I had control of what these entities were saying. It was grabbing my throat. It was moving my mouth. And subconsciously I could have been doing it, but I really feel like it was this other being that was saying the words, a different voice and everything, and I could hear it all. And I can't make that stuff up.
What words was it saying?
oh, like I was saying, if I could, I would rip you out of your body. And
So
you
he's
said
talking
that,
for
and
him.
it
I,
talked
Yeah.
it
through you.
said out of my voice, but it was speaking through me. Like I was saying, this whole thing had taken over my
Oh
body.
my gosh.
So it was like having something else in your body, you and something else in your body. Closest to demon possession that you can think of, right? Yeah.
Let me ask you now. So it sounds like, and I put the pieces together, that you don't know if you should follow the teachings of the world, the spiritual teachings of the world, because you said it just now. God says to not do that. What do you mean by that?
Well, there's the aspect of in the Bible it talks about steering clear of other spiritual paths that might open you up to
Because it says in the Bible, you can only get to God through me, or Christ through me.
Yeah,
however that saying
scripture,
goes.
and there's a whole bunch of stuff in the Old Testament about not relying on the soothsayers, the necromancers, and all that sort of stuff. And a lot of modern day Christianity would lump them in that same category.
Yeah.
So there's an aspect.
Like, don't deviate from the Bible.
Yeah, it's
because-
just simple, true. Just hold on to the Holy Spirit and the Bible, and that's the set path.
And that's still in your mind of which path to go to?
Well, like I said, I hold them in both hands, and I don't.
Because you were so strong in one of them.
Yeah,
The
well,
religious
to believe that so strongly, but then I had to use reason because a lot of it just didn't measure up in many areas. So I was
I
like,
agree.
well, I can't fully commit to it because I don't fully because I went down the track of helping others believe in it, but then when I got further enough down, I was like, well, I don't fully 100% believe in it. So I'm trying to convert other people because I'd experienced something incredible, like the love of God, which to this day I can base my life on, the most incredible thing I felt. But then so many things I felt like I was telling people to give up and telling myself I had to give up. It just didn't ring true with me completely. So I felt like it was being a bit disingenuous to try and get other people to do that when I didn't hold that 100%.
How much have you learned and uncovered about the origins of the Bible and the religion in general?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've obviously done a lot of research, how the Bible was written and who it was written by, over the centuries, the dating back of the scrolls, where they were found and all that. So,
So you have done some digging on.
Oh, yeah, I definitely.
And what have you concluded so far?
Well, to me,
because that's what you're saying, right? You're holding on to both of them, but
yeah. Well, again, there's just still a lot of mystery. So I just have to hold on to my experience of God and go, God. And as much as I can, I'm not willfully holding anything back. But there's a lot that doesn't measure up. So I say, if you want to reveal it to me, please show me.
Right.
But I'm not going to force something to believe something that I don't hold true in my heart. But I'm open, if it is true, for you to reveal that to me.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to try and force it. And so that's where I literally hold it.
Yeah. So the best way I can explain it to you, or I don't know, not explain it to you, but I guess like what I totally relate to what you're saying. And I think you do too, because in The Power of Now it talks about the Bible being a source of light for people. Because it is. There's a lot of great teachings that people can learn from. And originally, what The Power of Now says is it's leading us to the now. That anything that exists is now. So I think that's like kind of
you've
where...
read the book?
The Bible.
No, the Power of Now.
No, but I'm
Oh,
saying
okay,
I can understand what you're saying because logically the Bible isn't true. Like when it comes to dates and like matching up dates, but the wisdom in the Bible are true
Yeah,
for
like
the
there's
most part. Yeah. Like there's a lot of wisdom that I do think society needs, and there's a lot that they can follow that makes a society. Because I've thought like if I was a person who created a society, how would I govern a society? Like how would I do it? And it's a lot like how the Bible does it.
Right.
And because there's a lot of truth in the Bible of how to govern people, and that's I think essentially what it is, like how to live your life. And like how to treat others, how to treat your significant others. So I think
we
I think that's
we
where
can
I'm
all
at.
agree on that.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
But
the Bible has wisdom, even though logically it doesn't match up to its dates,
Right.
and then you can't make sense of it, right?
Yeah,
Does that
I
make
think
sense?
with the dates thing, they're always
Yeah.
changing, like the carbon
Yeah.
dating and all that. So it's really hard to judge it,
Yeah.
based on how long, even the age of the world, that's changes so much over the last 100 years based on the latest research.
Yeah.
So it keeps changing. So it's hard to get accurate information there.
Right.
But we do know, from the documents, it's one of the oldest books. It's got many historical documents that back it up. So there's a lot going for it in terms of historiography. But, there's a lot of inconsistencies in terms of the moral code, which, I struggle with. But then I look at the gravity with which some interpretations have of the Bible. If you don't adhere to the consequences in eternity seem so grave that it makes me not want to dismiss it outright. It makes me go...
Yeah, like if you reject Jesus Christ, you're obviously going to go to...
If hell's a place you're going to be there forever, that's a huge thing. But based on just my reality of experiencing God, what I felt as God, but then not experiencing the Word to the same extent, but experiencing the Spirit to that extent, I'm going, if reality after death is eternal and consequential, then I want to be on the right side of the ledger, you know?
Right.
So
there's a philosophy term for that too. It's kind of like playing the odds. Like, I rather believe, because if I don't believe and I'm right, then I'm going to...
Exactly.
So, that was my study as well. Right. I took maybe 3 university classes about religion, ethics, morality, even studying the Bible itself, comparing it to the Greek myths.
Right.
And there's this incredible channel called Spirit Science. And they essentially talked about, they just did a series about the Sumerians being one of the oldest civilizations, and essentially their workings and the Babylonians, and you kind of look at those ancient Mesopotamian cultures, led to a lot of our world religions. Right. Have you heard of those ideas? Have you heard that the Bible, the Quran, Tao Te Ching, Buddha, essentially are all saying the same message?
Yeah, like having researched it around that, a lot of it was from Syria, a lot of it around Mesopotamia. Those were the key cradle of civilization, they call it, So a lot was coming out. Ancient Egypt, all of these ancient cultures. So within that sort of birthing pot, you had many different similar forms coming up. And the fragments of the Bible that became the Bible were sort of out from that era. But there were other things as well.
And we will never, ever know where it all began.
But now we're getting into the esoterical realms where it's amazing to think, but if you can imagine, just think of nothing. Thinking of existing in nothing, what would it look like? Just thin air.
Black, nothing.
Thin air or blackness. It's really hard to imagine just nothing. Because if you think of nothing, does it go far? Because even distance is something, right?
That's right.
So how far does it go? But then you've created something. So there's actually no distance, so then what is nothing?
It's unfathomable.
So we cannot understand it.
We can't even understand nothing, because the fact that never... So the idea behind the God theory is that there never was nothing. He was always there.
Right.
But at some point,
there had to be...
Without time, he created time, and he created beings that could experience time. And this is the bit that I love, because we're not trying to convince either on these ideas, right?
No.
We're just debating these ideas. And this is great.
Which, because I'm not even convinced myself of what I believe.
So let's have this, flesh out these ideas. So the idea behind it is that God created this big universe, created the earth. Because I've also researched on the Nephilim. I don't know if you've heard about the Nephilim, which is tied to the theory of these reptilians, who were these half-breed of angels and humans. And the angels who were the Nephil, the Elohim, were the ones that descended on earth during the times of Noah, in the days of Jared, the Bible speaks about. And if you read the Book of Giants and the Book of Jubilees, and also the Book of Enoch, goes into great detail of exactly what happened. Wow. There was the archangel Raphael, and another one that came down, and they reckon that Lucifer tempted them because Lucifer had already fallen. But these angels were called the Watchers, and their role was to watch upon the early humans to make sure that they were doing
the right.
I love
these kind of stories.
And the idea in one of the heavens, Lucifer took them aside, and they were supposed to look down on humanity and watch them and make sure that they were protected. And he tempted them and said, wouldn't it be amazing if you go down and you could show them all the arts and the crafts of heaven and the secrets of the universe and the secrets of God, and you could then create your own creation. But the idea behind it was actually Lucifer's agenda speaking through them, because what he wanted to do, he wanted to wipe out the seed of man, because his biggest comeback wasn't against man, it was against God, and it was to put his footprint and his fingerprint over the universe and over creation and not allow God's to rule. So the idea is he slipped that secret into the beings that were these archangels that were supposed to be the Watchers. So they came down, and that was their descent. And there was 20 of them that led a whole herd of 200 of the fallen angels. And that's where the idea that they mated, and that's where they believe that dinosaurs ultimately came from. That's why they don't exist today, is that they were experimenting, like probably what we're going to see with chimeras in the coming generations, that we're going to see with the... Chimera is a combination of animal and human.
And human?
Yeah. But what they did is they reckon
I heard about that. It was like a documentary.
They mated with the woman. They took whatever woman they wanted and they became the wife. And then they would create a hybrid called a Nephilim, which were these huge creatures. But they reckon the dinosaurs came through mating with other animals, and they created these other monstrous beings, which were some forms of the dinosaurs.
Where is all this?
Wow.
This is so
I've done
cool.
hours of research on it.
But you said combination of those biblical books.
Yeah, all these biblical books so the Book of Jubilees, the Book of the Giants, the Book of Enoch.
Where's the Book of the Giants? It's not in the main.
So a whole bunch of these were found during the Dead Sea Scrolls were found.
Dead Sea Scrolls?
The old books. There was some books that are included in the Apocrypha, which is in the Catholic Bible, but not in the Protestant Bible.
So you obviously know way more of these kind of stories than I do. Why do you still hold on to the controlling words of what it says in the Bible?
Well, no, I don't see it as definitely contradictory. Like there's a lot of in the Bible which just resonates true. But there's some of it which I just really struggle with getting my head around why it would be in there. And so I don't have a full acceptance of everything in the Bible, but I have a full appreciation of God's love. And so it's a weird, but then...
But is it Jesus and God as it says in the Bible to you?
See, even that I'm not 100% sure on. All I can say from my heart experience is that I've experienced His love, and I've been told that Jesus is involved, and I've been taught that these things are, but I haven't necessarily seen them.
Because what if you grew up Muslim, or what if you grew up Buddhist?
Well, exactly, that could be different. So
it'd be a
but
lot.
but what I am saying is that I had my experience of God in the setting of a Christian camp, with Christian music and all that. So it's like very confusing to throw the baby out the bathwater. How do you separate what's what and what's not?
Yeah.
So you experience this form of spirituality in amongst this religious teaching.
Because I still listen to Christian music.
Yeah.
I still do. I love Christian music.
Yeah.
Man, that's incredible. So that is absolutely
great story.
fascinating.
Yeah.
I love it. It's just, I think what I can call it is the quest for just knowing. Like, because it's been suppressed. And let's just say those stories are true, or who knows which ones are. There obviously is a lot of evidence. I know. This is a long outro, but there's a lot of evidence that is suppressing us.
Yeah.
Right.
That is common, and we can all agree on. Something, someone, some entity, some force is suppressing when it doesn't have to be that way. When we're all meant to thrive and shine and love, and that's what we're advocating for. And so since we know that is a battle, it's awesome knowing that we found another warrior, another person on the journey, another person on the path.
Yeah.
100%.
Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Closing thoughts.
That was great meeting you guys. Thank you for
Yeah.
coming on to one of our first podcasts. Well, you're our first interviewer.
You're our first
Wow.
interviewee.
Yeah.
For ourselves too, but
Yeah.
you'll be back, I know, for you're going
For
to New
sure.
Zealand for how long?
Yeah, so I'm going to be up to the Philippines, Boracay Islands for a couple of
Okay,
weeks,
yeah.
and then after that in mid-September, I'll be back in my country for the foreseeable future, maybe 6 months, and then I get the fun part of planning in the next.
I know,
journey.
right?
Could be
Like,
anywhere.
where am I going
Tomorrow?
next?
I'm on a plane tomorrow, heading
Oh,
over
man.
to the Philippines.
Okay.
Well, we
Awesome.
maybe seen you in New Zealand or the Philippines.
Yeah,
Or the
look, you're
Philippines,
welcome
yeah.
anytime.
Because
Meeting
we can
you
go
guys was a
anywhere.
blast. So
Yeah, absolutely.
please come
likewise.
over. I
Yeah.
guarantee you'll enjoy New Zealand. And
Okay.
it's been a blast meeting you guys, and I hope this is one of many in the future.
Yeah,
Sounds
absolutely.
good.
Wish you guys all the best on
Yeah,
your journey
thank
ahead.
you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you guys.
Thanks,
Bye.
man.
Over out.